All set? Okay, I will call the meeting of the Zoning Amendment Committee meeting for October 5th, 2021 to order at about 6:08 PM. Is there any other changes to the agenda?
There are no additional changes to the agenda.
I'll accept a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
While you do that, I'm going to call Evan Turcott
Okay,
on the phone.
yep,
He is at work, so he mentioned that if he needs to go on call, he's just going to end abruptly, which is why he wrote something up
yep.
and provided that.
Do I have a second for Drew's?
I second it.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously. By the way, we do have a quorum here this evening. Okay, we'll wait till Evan gets on the line. Should we just zip right into his thing here?
Yeah.
Because he never knows what's gonna happen.
Hi, Evan, it's Jessica at the planning office.
Hello?
Hello?
Can you hear me? Can you hear me now?
Hi, Evan, it's Jessica from the town hall.
Hi.
Hi, I have you on speakerphone.
Okay.
All right, so we're gonna start the meeting.
Alrighty.
Okay.
Okay,
We're
We're-
all
we're-
set.
under new business, any new business?
No,
And okay, hearing none. Old business, review third draft of the 2022 proposed amending zoning amendments dated October 5, 2021. Should we just skip to Evan right now to
I think
discuss
that
this?
would be safe bet.
Okay, Evan, we're gonna talk about your Airbnb stuff right now. So in case you have something come up unexpectedly, you can go. Well, you're gonna go anyway. Okay. Okay. Why don't you just start, Evan, and speak to your bullet points here that you have of these 5 items, and we'll go from there.
Yep. All right, so I guess the first thing would be, for people that have been doing this for a number of years, what's the incentive for them to apply for a permit, and how will we know if they're actually doing the Airbnb?
Well, that's a bit of the honor system, or the next door neighbors will let us know, or let, code enforcement know that there is that type of activity going on. And then he can address that as seen appropriate by him. So that is probably, we'll advertise it, of course. Maybe a flyer could go out in a tax bill or something like that. If they do that still, I don't know, but to alert people of this, that if this were to pass by the voters in March, then that's how it will be handled. There is an honor system to this to start up with, and it's going to be a phase-in period. We're sure of a fair amount of time. So I hope that, did I miss anything why people would do this? So I got by the first sentence.
Okay, easy enough. And then that answers number 2 as far as code enforcement, enforcing the written warnings and the fines for repeat offenders. So that's no issue either.
Yep.
And obviously the criteria for the fire department is accurate. For 1 to 2 family homes, the fire code doesn't have too much teeth as what's required. So 911 numbers, egress windows, smoke alarms, and CO alarms are the major components of life safety code.
Yeah. Also to that, Evan, I recommended a 5-pound ABC extinguisher that be part of this. I think that would be
I
appropriate.
saw that, and I'm all for that as well. Number 4 is not a requirement, but I would strongly urge you guys to consider it for short-term rentals. And the reason being, fire alarm provides a little bit more safety with people that are unfamiliar with the homes, with layouts, or any of the building services, i.e. the heating or the cooling system. If there's an issue with that, it would at least let us know right away rather than waiting for somebody to call us per se.
Okay.
And then number five, again, it's not required, but with that, I would strongly urge the board to consider requiring a Knox box that at least gives us the keys for the property, and we can put the property contact information in if there is an issue. I did see in the proposal that there'll be some sort of sheet of paper with property contact information. This is just kind of redundant, but it does give us the keys in case somebody didn't leave those for the short-term.
Well, you have to go there at 3 o'clock in the morning and town offices aren't opening. So that's why you want them where they are. So that makes perfect sense.
I agree with.
Yeah, so the Knox box, I think the Knox box is a good idea. Yes. Yeah, go ahead, Mr. Bober.
How does a Knox box work when you have digital box?
Well, you would have the code in there. The Knox, are you familiar with the Knox box? Okay. So the fire department is the only one that has the key to that. There's probably what, 3 or 4 keys out to the chief officers. And that's probably about it. It's very closely held key.
How do you handle that? Digital code change.
Well,
How do we handle it?
they make these things called a Halligan bar. And if they want to change that, it's their problem. Go ahead, Evan.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but a lot of those electronic keypads still have an actual key slot, I believe. I could be mistaken, but I think most of them do. And maybe we look at that as a requirement as well, as if you do have.
I'm gonna check when I go home.
The electronic key.
Yeah, good point, Evan.
A lot of them do, and often the ones that do not have, microphone. The ones that do not have a separate key, there's a master code that stays in there that only the homeowner knows, or their
You can put several
caretaker.
codes in them usually,
Yeah.
so, you know,
Yeah,
I wouldn't recommend
in a
putting 911
Knox
in.
box, it's not an inexpensive, venture for anybody, but I think it's probably a worthwhile.
But it's also secure from the homeowner's point of view. I mean, the only people who have access to it
Right.
are very authorized people.
Yeah, namely the fire department.
Yeah.
Would the public have any questions of the deputy chief?
So can I just note that
Yeah, you
if we're
can.
gonna have the public, can they come up and speak in the microphone?
Sure.
So that way I
Yeah.
can make sure we get everything.
Nobody has any questions at this stage.
Okay.
So.
Yeah.
I'll do, when we do the next
Thank
one,
you.
we'll do that. Thank you.
I did want to step back real quick to your number 4, and having gone through this in another town where the fire department had requested something above and beyond any code, it's, there's no teeth in it, and
Right.
I think we're asking too much to have a dial system or
I have to agree.
a cellular.
Yeah.
Some of these will have that anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, already.
A lot of the higher end ones will have monitoring systems.
We're worried about a smoke detector, but we're not necessarily worried about a carbon monoxide detector.
No.
No, we are.
I guess,
I'm confused.
no, we'll back up.
Excuse me, John,
A CO detector.
please.
It says CO detector, which is carbon monoxide.
Okay. sorry.
Yeah, so,
Yeah.
yeah, smoke CO.
Most of the units now are combos,
Right,
Right.
that's what we have.
Yes.
battery backup.
Yeah. No. All right.
Okay.
But I mean, great points,
So I think we'll, by the mood here, we'll strike number 4 from this.
I think so.
I think we could, urge it, but,
Yeah.
try to stress that
Not to make it a
Yeah.
requirement.
it's greatly improved this, but it's flat not gonna happen for some places. They just
Right.
don't.
Yeah,
People
that
aren't
just,
gonna do
yeah.
it.
Government infliction. It's getting to be.
Right, exactly. It becomes a little much.
Okay, Evan, anything else you want to say to us, please?
No, I think that covers it. I appreciate the opportunity for the input, and I look forward to seeing what happens.
Sounds good.
Great.
Thank you.
Evan.
Thank
Stay
you.
safe.
Thank you.
See ya.
Have a good evening.
Thank you all. You too.
How do I shut him off?
It
He'll just-
disconnects. When he hangs up,
Hang
it's
up.
done.
Oh.
Yep.
Okay, we'll go back to the review, the third draft of the zoning amendments.
Mhm.
And so I don't need that. So that's number 2. Okay, We'll start right off on number one. Several of these have been to forward to the planning board
Pretty much all of them except
if
for,
for the,
Yeah, I noted that in parentheses.
yeah.
Right next to that.
Okay, yeah, I see that.
Yep.
So what number is it's just the A and B and B stuff?
Yeah, I wanted to point out that amendment number 3 got struck through just because I feel like we need some more time to review updating the sign regulations for
Okay,
electronic
okay.
signs.
Good.
You know, we don't want to rush it. We just didn't have enough time to review it and get it in on time. So that's struck through.
That's
thank you.
fine. Okay, so one thing we really need to look at is what are we gonna, by the time we take some of these out, what number are we gonna be at to put to the board forward?
So I believe it will be number 8.
Okay,
I do have a question into town council as to whether the existing 5, 6, 7, and 8 potentially may also be just administrative changes.
okay.
But I haven't
So-
heard back, so
So
we,
those three could
really
knock it
could
down to like
just-
5.
Yeah.
right,
Okay.
Yeah.
So be it.
Yeah.
Unless we want to find something that we aren't using anymore, we can get rid of a couple. That wouldn't break my heart.
but we,
No,
it's
this is
just
true.
tried some and been shot down, so,
Okay.
yeah.
That's fine. You know what you're up against
Mhm.
more than that.
I think
So-
at this point, we should just, what we have in hand.
Yeah, I don't want to make any more than we. Okay, so number 9, is there our number 9 currently that we need to talk about?
Correct.
Wow, there's a lot of red and yellow and all kinds of
Mhm.
green.
right.
You're
So
very
the
colorful.
The yellow sections are areas that still need,
Building.
yeah, they need, information or a little bit of research or, some input back from town council. The writing that is in green is included from our last meeting
Mhm.
and some other things that I had thought of when we last met. Mainly number 4. It's on page 9. So I just had a couple of things when it talks about after submitting the application that there's a 30-day time period
Mhm.
to review. And so my questions are, what if the application is not complete? Is there some type of formal process to inform the applicant? Or,
Well-
just,
I
Notify
personally,
them.
I would
Just
think if the form
notifying
isn't
them.
complete, then you deny it.
yep.
I
Um,
mean,
The
And
30
starting.
days starts at complete application.
Right, right.
Yep.
Yeah, so.
Okay, yeah,
once-
which I figured, but I
Just
was
like a
just trying
planning
to
board thing
get
does here,
consensus.
once we accept it, the clock starts.
Doesn't it, would it matter what the incompleteness is? In other words, if there was something that was just missed one line, are you gonna deny
Yeah,
it because of that?
Or-
Or would you notify them, this isn't complete, this is why?
Suppose it would all depend on what was missing.
Right.
If there was criteria,
Well,
It
that-
has to depend on what's missing.
yeah,
A lot of applications you do, some are required fields and some aren't required.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you could asterisk them for that if you wanted to, but if it's not that necessary, let's not put it on the form.
Well, and then-
So-
and it's also, we look at it, if it's one minor thing, a phone
A phone
call,
call.
fill in the
Yeah.
blank, or, we need this, and we do this all the time with both planning and zoning applications, with
Yep.
correct.
I'd hate to see
Building
it.
permit
Building
Hate to
application.
see
permit
it
applications.
I would hate to see a denial because
Yeah,
of
no,
of
I-
a small
Yeah.
error.
Yeah, no,
That-
but no.
Right, and that wouldn't just be an automatic, it just, would be a conversation
A
back and forth,
conversation or a
trying
phone
to
call.
make
And that's, I
sure.
wanted to clarify that. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think
that would
that
be the procedure.
it should be stated someplace that the 30 days only starts when the application is complete,
complete.
determined by the
complete.
planning department.
Right.
Okay.
So they might turn it in on a Monday, but Wednesday didn't get the last bit of information in. Well, the 30 days starts Wednesday.
Let's put this, every document application like that is usually stamped in, dated. And I think
Yep.
we should have a time that we must react to it. I mean, 3, 4, 5 days or something like
Mhm.
that. I mean, you just, oh, I didn't see it. It was at the bottom of my stack. That's
Right.
not going to cut it, but.
Right.
Right. So to elaborate more on that comment. So originally, this little section right here came from Laconia.
Okay,
So Laconia doesn't notify abutters ahead of time. They send it out after the fact.
Yeah, that was
So
my thought.
I changed this, so I changed the language around. So upon submitting a complete application, at that time, a certified notice will go out to the abutters.
Good.
yep, so they are formally noticed.
Then the date of that notice, the abutters will be informed they'll have 15 days to respond. And after that 50, so the 16th day, you know,
Yep.
if it's a Friday, obviously it'll be on Monday.
Correct.
That's the day that the permit will either be issued or a denial letter will be sent out. So then that way, abutters will know when their 30-day appeal period
Yep.
clock starts. Because that's what's important. They need a
Right.
designated date. So to
Exactly.
specify 15 days after whatever date is on that letter.
Yep.
They have 15 days to submit comments.
Mhm.
And then after that, it gets the, permit gets issued or a letter, and then they have the 30-day clock.
Let me ask a dumb question. If I come in to get an application for a permit, I don't just take the application, go fill it out and drop it off. I have to discuss it with you, correct?
You could fill out the permit and then bring it back.
But
I mean, the application.
it would seem to me that there should be some active participation with the planning department.
Well,
you know,
not an application, I
yeah.
mean, she's there if they have questions, but
Exactly.
the application should be quite self-explanatory
Yes.
on what they need
Right,
to
but
provide.
if someone
they
says
have
that,
further questions,
Yeah.
then she'll be there to assist them like she is currently.
And it goes back to completeness. They come
Right.
back with it. Does this look
And
complete?
she can quickly peruse it and say, oh, you missed this thing. Oh, we
Correct.
gotta-" And again, they can mail it in too, and she doesn't have that opportunity. So
I have a question.
Yep.
Could you,
Could
you come up?
First of all,
Can you come
I'm
up?
gonna set rules so you know, we need to know who you are. So please come up,
And
speak in the
come
mic,
up.
identify who you are, and then feel free to ask whatever you feel the need to ask.
just pull the mic down to you?
So is the application part of this, part of the amendment? How do we know what the application is?
Well,
It will be provide. Go ahead.
Yeah,
I'll let you explain that.
So along with this potential new ordinance, an application needs to be drafted up. A checklist needs to be drafted up, so that way, when an inspection takes place, fire department and code official can, check all the criteria off when they do their inspections.
Shouldn't that be done before it goes on the ballot?
It will be worked on, yes, it will be
Well,
worked
I
on
don't
in
know
the
if the
meantime,
application
but
part of it needs to be on the ballot. That wouldn't, the ordinance is what is the nuts and bolts of the thing. It's just an application. We need to know who
Right.
they are. So I don't think that would be part of the warrant article at all, because
I
it's
agree.
not, it would change with every person. So,
well, that,
and she'll have them in her office, and you're more than happy to go grab a sample.
everything that's going to be requested is already here.
And I'm
right.
willing to guess it'll
Described,
be on
it's
the-
not worded out by individual parts of the question.
And I'd hazard guess it will be on the website too.
it will be.
It would.
Yeah,
Yeah, we would have, in order to be able to establish the criteria for it, it has to be in this that gets voted on. And then we would just take this and transfer it onto an application form.
So in other words, there wouldn't be any new surprises showing up in the
Yeah.
This is the
application.
criteria that it would be based on.
This is what you will see at the ballot.
Yeah, and we're gonna,
Then you vote on that.
because we have to put it in the ordinance to give us that direction. So we would say, okay, these, we'll be looking at this is the formal process, this is the timetable. We have to lay that all out in writing. But that's what, all of this is what has to be approved by the voters. So that's why we're kind of particular, we keep going over it and picking and pointing at butter, but we have to make sure we have everything that we want, in order and is legal to do
Mhm.
and is reasonable to do.
Mhm.
And then it gets voted.
I guess that goes to my point, which is, this is such a huge undertaking. Like, I don't know that it's clear, there's a clear understanding of how many Airbnbs. I don't know if there's a clear understanding of the process for how you will manage the Airbnbs. I don't know if there's an understanding of the implications of the tax impact from a staffing point on this whole process. And I just don't understand how this is not important enough to not put it to a study committee before it goes on the ballot. It's a very complex issue.
I
And
under-
there's litigation everywhere. Conway's in Supreme Court on this issue right now.
Right.
This could expose the town to significant litigation.
This is
It
going-
will take up all of your time.
Jim Sessler, who's the town attorney, will carefully review this. He is current on a lot of different things going on. I'll guarantee you.
And
I just would
I'll be
like to
very,
express
I'll be,
my personal opinion. This should be a study committee that involves the business community, the people that are associated with Airbnb rentals, neighbors who have issues with the Airbnb rentals. I respect everyone's position in this. It should involve the fire department, but this is a complex issue. And I just think that before you put it on a ballot, that it really should, it deserves the due diligence of like involving all of the appropriate parties, because you're just gonna end up in court all the time. And that's what everyone wants to avoid. And I'm not saying that everyone doesn't have the right attention, but if it's not ready for prime time, I feel like we're pushing this and that it doesn't have the appropriate level. I mean, you don't know if you're gonna be doing 100 inspections or getting 100. There's not even a concept of the volume of what's going on here.
Well, you said at the last meeting that there were 300 and some listings in the town of Alton.
In the summertime, for sure. Yeah,
and I understand.
300. And if you get a complaint on that, you're gonna have to have due process with the complaint. If someone says someone's parked in my driveway or someone had a loud party, it could be me. It could be my brother. It could be my uncle. It could be my.
Let's put it this way, if someone has a large party, the zoning ordinance has a noise curfew time.
Already in
At 11
effect.
o'clock, already in place. So if you're exceeding that, we don't care who you are, the owner, the tenant, or whomever, you're in violation. Quiet down. So that item is, if you're having a party and it's too loud, nobody cares if you have a party, but if it's too loud and you're bothering the neighbors, yes, then there's
Then
a
it's an
zoning
issue.
ordinance that will handle that.
And I don't disagree with you. This is a very, very large thing
There's
to
just-
tackle, and I mean, if it comes, we get down to the wire and it says, this isn't ready, in my opinion, I'm fine with that.
I
That
just
we
think
wait,
it
that we
warrants a- I
approach
just
it
think it
differently. I mean, this is akin to rezoning. I mean,
And this is the
something
reason why we are having these meetings to work through these waters.
Exactly.
To try to establish the best way to word an ordinance.
One of
So-
I
the,
don't think it's meant for just the people around this table. Wolfboro has a study committee going on the same issue right now. They're taking their time, they're doing it right, and it will save a lot of money in the long run. And I just want to just reference, like, I know that you just did the survey. I don't know if you were part of that survey, which
Yes.
it was very cool, by the way. It was very interesting read, but for those who haven't read it, it was an assessment from, you probably could tell better than I, 5,000 people were interviewed and asked 4 questions with regards to the town of Alton. So of an estimated 775 comments, there are 5 mentions of Airbnb short-term rentals as a concern, which is less than 1% of the population that was, of 1% of the population that was interviewed. And no one suggested in their Airbnb comments that it should be eliminated. In the same document, there are 314 references to keeping taxes low as a primary concern. 125 references to restaurants, meaning people want more choice. 58 references to parking availability, 16 references to fireworks issues, 62 references to boat traffic and access concerns, 11 references to the speed limit, and almost unanimous desire for improved business and shopping options, not only for the current residents, but for others to attract others to our area. This is a vacation town. There's no hotels. Right now, Sandy Point's for sale. Bayside Inn is for sale. Riverview Hotel has been closed for over a year. King Birch Lodge is out of business. Winnebago Cottages relies on Airbnb and VRBO for their income. We have nothing. And everybody wants more business. And the only thing we're talking about here is eliminating the one opportunity we have to bring.
Nobody's trying to eliminate.
Yeah,
any-
we
Not
gotta,
eliminating.
yeah, we need to clear that up. There's no intention to
okay.
eliminate it, just regulate it, put a little controls in place.
I'm just saying that, like, the person that just rents their lake house to a beautiful family 2 weeks out of the year to pay their taxes might not want to do that anymore because we're making it complicated. This is pages and pages of stuff. This is very complicated and it's too complicated.
It's not that complicated. It's fairly straightforward when you're familiar with it.
I understand your point and your concerns, but nobody here is trying to stop it.
Absolutely.
That's not the case here. It's trying to come up with grips of regulation and helping the people that are neighbors and concerned citizens of things that are going on and trying to regulate it and trying to make it so that it runs in a smoother and happier for everyone.
When it's run properly, there's no problems.
Right, but where are the concerns? I know that there are off concerns, but these are off concerns that could be addressed through local law enforcement and working with the people that are bad offenders. You know, you're rolling out something to 100% of the population.
No, that's not correct.
Or-
The septic system loading should be a concern for every one of us.
Okay.
Because we lose that big puddle down there and we're in big trouble because our property will be worth nothing. So you need to keep that as far as I'm concerned, the biggest thing here is I don't want to see these septic systems overloaded. Some of them are extremely old and who knows what is in the ground.
Delicate.
They're getting stressed.
So if that's the main issue, then why is this not just like a capacity? Like, why are we not just asking for like capacity?
That's part of the
That's
thing.
part of
If
it.
you-
That's
and
part
if
of
you-
it.
It's part of it, but there's a lot more, but if you. if
Well, it's
that's
a
the-
business too, and it's a lodging business. You know, a hotel has rules they must have to open the doors. The Mount Washington has rules they have to let people on the boat. You know, I am about as pro-business person as you'd ever want to meet.
Okay.
So I don't want to, rule this stuff out. I don't want to inhibit this. I just want to make sure nobody gets hurt as a result of it.
So
I think
I
the-
just wanted to touch on one of the things. So you mentioned, if there's, the problem children out there, which unfortunately is how all these rules and laws end up being formed. But if there's no rules or laws to hold them to, then we have no teeth. I mean, you can't go, to somebody who's got cars parked in the neighbor's lawn.
That's it.
There's no law against that. You could say, hey, common courtesy, move your car, but they can tell you to go pound sand. So so we got to have some of these regulations as a guideline to
And it puts everybody in the same equitable position. Everybody is on the same playing field. They understand what needs to be done, and that will be that.
I think the key here is what Scott was talking about, aside from the lake being the golden goose. Immediately, once you know what the loading capacity of the site is, that's the limit of the number of people that can be permitted.
Number of bedrooms.
Yeah.
So, but it controls the numbers. So you can't exceed that. There are other parts that control the parking.
Right.
Is there a place that for a fire truck to even get into? You have to have certain access. So we're trying to look at this from every single point of view.
It stops the people that are coming in and instead of just renting their unit out, turning it into how many people can I fit in, charged by the person? And then they go from what would normally be 6 people in a building to 15. And now putting people in every area of the building. That's some sort of regulation on how many people come into a property. And again, not stressing out the septic systems. So that's part of it.
So why wouldn't that rule apply to all residents?
It
It
does.
does.
So there's a capacity as to how many guests you can have at your house?
Well, if it's for, every Thanksgiving, everybody comes over on Thanksgiving. And the system, the flow rates take into all this into consideration, that holidays happen and you have guests over from time to time. It's just not hard and fast because it's 150 gallons per bedroom. And I defy you that if a 3-bedroom house is using 450 gallons of water a day, that is a ton of water.
Yeah, it is.
That is a ton of water. They're probably using half of that
And
or less.
you're not going to have everybody who there's for Thanksgiving, there that many people in the house year round. You've got in your personal home. All right. Now we're looking at places, part of what's driving this is now we're looking at places that are purchased solely to do this. So they are a business. So part of the planning process is to regulate businesses and make sure they are complying with the planning regulations of the town. We're not talking about, sure, there are people that just rent it out 1 or 2 weeks out of the year. Okay, then we have these, and there are more and more of these by the day that are being bought by development properties and are nothing but rented every day of the year for for this type of thing. A septic system, you've got a 3-bedroom septic in your house. Sure, everybody shows up and the house is full for Christmas, so the house is full for Thanksgiving or 4th of July, but there's an off period too in your house. You don't want 20 people in your house year round.
Ever.
Okay. Whereas these investment properties is what they are to people. They're an investment property and they're trying to get as much return as possible.
Mhm.
So if there's nothing that says you can't put 20 people in a 2-bedroom house, or, there's some way of trying to, and I see you shaking your head, but I was in the Navy. I could put 12 people in a freaking 1-bedroom apartment, and we'll all live there, but
Not happily, but.
well, there'll be some disputes, but a couple beers, you work it all out.
It gets worse.
It gets worse.
Somebody goes overboard.
But anyway, the idea is that, it's also a business. These are now businesses, and part of a business, is that they have to be able to meet the requirements for that business. A restaurant, and when it comes down to septic, I have seen, because I'm I'm the septic person in town when it comes to regulation and reviewing and that initially before it goes to the state for approval. I don't do the approvals. But I've also seen some numbers that are good and some numbers, flow numbers that I think are entirely unreasonable, but I don't have any control over that. But the idea is that we don't want, there's got to be some type of control when someone takes a 1/10 of an acre with a 2-bedroom house or a 3-bedroom house and advertises it as sleeps 18 people. And there's no septic system on file for this particular property. I know because I've looked, which means it's just a 55-gallon drum full of rocks in the ground that's been there since the 60s. That was not designed to do this. And it's not only about septic, but in this town, you mentioned, why don't we have hotels? We don't have hotels because we don't have a central sewer system in this town.
That's right.
Everything is on a septic system. Everything.
And that's a double-edged sword, because yes, the septic would be, the sewer would be great for the town, but if we had the sewer that came in 1970, when the Winnipesaukee River Basin project was done, the face of Alton would be entirely different than it is today. We are the only town down this end without it. Wolfboro has it, Guilford has it. Look at those towns and tell me what you see.
Yeah. So, I mean, it is, but that's one answer for you right there is that, septic system is a self-limiting thing. It's by cost.
Yeah.
So
I'm not trying to be part of the.
No,
I'm trying to be part of the solution. I just think it's so big and I think it's so many different faces. It is not, the people that want 18 people in their house, that is a 3-bedroom house, are people that I don't know. I don't know anyone who wants to do that. And I think that there are people that rely on this 2 or 3 week rental in order to offset.
We're not looking to stop that.
yeah,
Carry on. There's no reason to stop it. That's business.
yeah.
Every business has hurdles they have to jump through.
Right.
Yeah.
Trust me.
I'll give you a couple of hoops.
Yeah, not your hoops.
I'll end where I started. I just think that this warrants a study committee. I really think that this is a big issue, and I think it's not just what you're wishing for, it's what's going to result, and the litigation is
Well,
expensive.
how can you say that? You don't know what we're doing, what the final product is yet.
Yeah.
I think we should. I think that's. the
But you're
point.
telling us we're headed for litigation. How can you possibly
You
know
can't
that?
possibly know that.
The point of this exercise is to work towards a final product. This is why we go back and forth. Jessica and I just had the conversation about, was it Laconia? Doesn't notify, they notify people after they've
the fact.
approved.
That's-
I mean,
That's
if
absurd.
the house next to you gets approved for it and you don't know until the permit is in place, you might want to have had some input prior to that being approved,
We're giving
Which-
that
which-
to the taxpayer.
which runs against the planning process or the zoning process. You know, someone comes in and wants to do a site plan to put up a new building and run widgets out of it. There is a whole process by which all the abutters are notified.
Pages of
There's,
stuff.
there's public notification in the newspaper, they're posted, they're on the website. And the whole point is that people have the right to know what's going on and to be able to weigh in. And it's the same with zoning. It's a whole notification period and everything else. And then the
So
appeal
what if the
period.
neighbors- I mean, what if the neighbors say, I don't want an Airbnb?
That's,
Well, let's-
that's not a controlling
No,
factor.
it's a valid question.
That's
It
a
is-
very good
What's
question.
the point if
Let me
they-
give you, for instance,
I can give,
when Aroma Joe's was approved down there, so many people came up to say, why on earth did you approve another coffee shop in town? I said, it's not our job to decide who opens a business in town. They meet the criteria. It's allowable in the zone. You put your ducks in a row, you have it. We can't deny it just because we don't think you need another coffee shop. That's not how it works. And a lot of people sit here and say, I don't want this, I don't want this, I don't want this. We approve it. Now we're bad guys. But no, we're not. We followed the criteria that was set forth and approved by the voters. And that's how it happens. And we don't
and
discriminately say yes or no just because of our personal feelings.
One
We
other,
should leave- Every one of us should leave our personal opinions at the door.
and on the zoning board, when you have the criteria and everything is met on the criteria, the zoning board will always take into consideration the abutters. And if it's warranted, they can impose conditions on to those, even on top of the
Special
criteria,
conditions.
special conditions.
Special
So
conditions.
these things can be discussed. If there's enough people that come and oppose, it can be discussed and talked about to see if that, even though it met the criteria, that something can be added.
another example is there are cases where
Good point.
it was once one property and they had a shared septic system for the two houses. Now, if somebody wants to have a B and B on a shared septic system and you come in and say, that's not his septic system, it's our septic system. That's where the abutter has some real power input. But just because you don't like something, you can express why it might be bad, or the fact that there is a hidden canal underneath it, or a drain going through someplace. That's information that nobody has. And that's where abutters know certain things about the abutting property.
Yeah,
Okay.
Can
I'm
offer
gonna ask you to
insight that
step
might not. be-
aside now. Don't go away. We'll come back to you if you need, but I just want to give somebody else some chance. But the main thing of this is we're trying to put everybody on the same playing field. That's the good part of it.
And specifically, people that do Airbnb or VRBO, there's a whole lot more that they go through to
Yes.
do that, than if you just chuck it on Craigslist.
That's right.
There's nothing there.
And that's why it's being called short-term rental, not
Because-
Airbnb or anything else.
Right, because those companies actually have rules and regs of their own, and the taxes that are taken out and so on and so forth, but some people aren't doing
Have a seat
it.
here. You can sit at this one too.
Consider this one.
Doesn't matter. We don't only have one hot
You
seat.
want me to be the center?
Sure.
Sure.
Mr. Bober had his own seat last
You don't
time.
want me to Okay, so we went to the last.
Pull your mic down and you give us her name.
Your name, please.
Elaine Moline.
Thank you.
We weren't at the last meeting, and I guess I should have been at the last meeting, because from what I was told, you guys took out, and someone did say, what about the nice lady that has the apartment above her garage?
Okay.
I guess you guys abolished that.
No,
No.
No,
That's what I was told.
by whom?
Someone.
Okay,
Can I-
well,
So,
I
they
know
were,
him somewhere.
they were misinformed. They
Okay,
were
okay.
misinformed.
So you know our situation. We're in the
Right.
woods
Yeah.
on Coffin Brook.
Right.
I've been totally upfront, totally honest.
Mhm.
We've rented our apartment since July or June. I'm sorry, end of June. So we've had people in it every weekend. We've had, arborists working up in Wolfboro, so lumberjacks, whatever they are. And so we've had all kinds of people. So that's still a legit thing, correct?
Absolutely.
Can I
Yes.
interrupt you for just one moment
Yes.
so that I can just direct the board as to what you're talking about? 'Cause I know
Yes.
exactly what you're referring
Yeah, I
to.
was trying to find it.
It's on page 7. So it's A1. So it's 1B little I,
Okay, yep.
and it states, in all zones, both an accessory dwelling unit, ADU, allowed by a special exception granted by the vote of the zoning board of adjustment, and the associated primary housing unit are prohibited from being used for short-term rentals, and I
Okay.
can explain why.
That's
Short-term.
that's a very, that's a very,
Yes, accessory dwelling units, when the state came up with, towns, municipalities, sort of
Mandating it.
guiding them, yeah, and mandating them to, have accessory dwelling units.
Mhm.
They were created, for housing. They weren't created to rent out for short-term rentals. They were created for long-term,
Oh,
long-term,
Like an
yeah, I guess
affordable
like an
alternative.
affordable, an alternative, affordable
like HUD or
housing.
something like that.
Right,
Okay,
in-law apartment,
okay.
things like that. And that's specific in the language in the RSA for ADUs, that's what that was created for.
Okay,
So,
so we
So-
wouldn't get charged $275 a day if we rented ours out.
You rent it out for a year at a time, or is that
No, it's weekend rentals.
weekend rentals?
right, so currently she uses her ADU as a short-term rental, that's what she's stating.
Again, this is like, I mean, butt in, but like, there's a lot, not a lot of people out there. By the devil's in the details.
So you're saying that mine is not legit?
no, yours is,
No, you missed the whole conversation.
all right.
So on that section here, the A1 I,
Correct.
EBI,
Mhm.
it says that an ADU cannot be used for short-term rental.
Whoa, that's not what this says. All
Okay,
right, so
good.
let me be very clear,
Okay,
because this is a
Okay,
zoning
it
thing, and
looks like
that's where
what it says, yeah.
this says that an accessory dwelling unit, which was allowed by a special exception granted by the zoning board, cannot be used for short-term rentals. But let me finish.
Now I hear where you're going.
You hear where I'm going?
Yes, but finish, please.
Yep,
Go ahead,
yeah,
yeah, finish it.
absolutely.
Yes.
Okay, so there are certain cases where if you want to have an accessory dwelling unit, you do have to go to the zoning board to get it. There's only one zone where that is applicable, and that is in the Lakeshore Residential Zone. Every other zone, with the exception of where they have marinas, it is allowed, as we say, by right, which means you can have it. Now, you'll have to meet the other criteria, is enough septic, so, but in the rural zone, you come to me, say, I want to put an accessory dwelling unit in here. The structure is safe, you meet your septic loading, the other criteria. We say yes, and you go to work. Now, in the Lakeshore Residential Zone, if you come in and want to do it, then you have to go to the zoning board for a special exception. And that, because there is specific criteria in the Lakeshore Residential. In the rural zone, it can be in a detached accessory structure.
So we're okay.
Yes, oh, you're fine.
See,
Yeah,
hang
but
on,
in
hang
the
on,
lake, let me finish, in the Lakeshore Residential Zone, we don't allow that. to
So
be
that
in a
would be like, say, we'll say like Alton Shores.
Yeah. No, no.
No,
In our
that's
Our-
not Lakeshore Residential. up here.
Lakeshore Residential Zone is really odd. Okay, we don't include all the waterfront we have.
Okay,
So we're looking primarily around Winnipesaukee
okay,
is where most of our Lakeshore Residential Zones
Okay.
are. The islands are considered Lakeshore Residential.
The zoning map.
Yeah, the zoning map.
It was there.
But
Hasn't been in a
in
while.
I see it.
So in the Lakeshore Residential Zone, it cannot be in a detached structure. It has to be part of the primary dwelling. So you could add on, say over if you've got a attached garage with a bonus room on there, and you want to create one there. That is, but it has to be done by the zoning board because they have extra blocks that have to be checked, if you will. And that's the only zone where you have to go do it by special exception. And that's so that's why that restriction is there, because it was intended to be an accessory dwelling unit only in that
Okay.
zone. But it does not have an adverse effect on the other zones. So in the rural zone out in Coffin Brook, what you're doing is meets the requirements.
But the ideal
It's
thing is,
compliant.
you're on the premises.
Yes,
There's no misbehavior when that happens. You're basically have an Airbnb, not an Airbnb, but a B&B.
no,
No.
No, I mean,
No,
it's the
it's-
equivalent to it
no.
in
No,
the
'cause
sense that
it-
just the person is on the site.
Right.
Okay, we'll go with that.
Yeah. The
I'm
idea,
not feeding anyone.
Right. And
Brought them ice. We gave them ice.
So John, what you've done is you have explained why her ADU is legal.
Yes,
Right. Now, can that ADU be used for short-term rental?
her ADU,
Yes.
yes.
we have no prohibition against it. Because this
That's what I
prohibition,
read here.
this, unless, am I missing something further down?
Well, that's what it looks like.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly is how
No,
it reads to
it
me.
says,
That
Prohibited
specifies-
from using.
So I
no,
apologize
no,
for the
no.
confusion, and that's why we have the code official here with us.
And
at
now
these
when I
meetings.
email
please.
him, I'm going to call him instead.
good luck. No, I apologize. I go zipping through and
It's okay.
sometimes I just,
It could.
no, this
verify
is
it.
specific. And it says if you were granted a
right.
special exception
Mhm.
for that accessory dwelling unit, it cannot be used. But that's what this is saying
Special
here.
exception is really the operative word here.
Correct.
So it's
Yeah.
only
Yes.
if that ADU was
Permitted.
became in existence because of a special exception.
Because it went to the zoning board and got
Right.
permission to exist.
And because it went there, it most likely is the Lake Shore residential zone.
It would have to be because
Have to
that's the
because
only
that's-
zone that we
that would
require
require it.
a special exception to, that you go to the zoning board to
Okay.
get permission for.
Thank you. Now I'm not mad at the town of Alton.
I'm glad to hear that.
I was very mad.
But see, this is where it gets technical and to your point, gets extraordinarily technical and the little bit, I'll just relay this little anecdote. I had to take someone to court a few years ago. And the opposing lawyer was arguing that it said this, and this. And the judge said, well, you might be able to interpret it if that comma wasn't there. You might be able to interpret it the way you might. If that comma was not there, you might be able to interpret it there. A comma.
That's all it took.
And words matter.
It does.
And I had, in this particular case, I had a lot of time in and I was very, very particular about it, but to just hear, so that's why this is your point is exactly that. This is very technical and here it is. Someone said, oh, they read the first part in all zones. It's not allowed, it's prohibited from being used, but they don't understand that special exception is the primary part of this.
But
That's an important.
this gets down to the root of what a lot of what we do in this ZAC committee is tweak the wording so that it's clear and
Clarify.
understandable.
Yeah.
And I
And
think
sometimes
I
it's
speak
almost-
for the rest of the
Oh,
board
yeah.
here that
Well-
this was not crystal
This was not
clear.
crystal clear, not with me.
Okay,
No.
so
But I'm glad you-
I'm happy now.
Okay.
You guys are all back in my good graces. Now, I'm just going to continue because I'm on a roll. So I pay my 9% to the state of New Hampshire that we all figured out back
It's
in.
dropped it to 8.5.
Huh?
It just dropped it to 8.5.
Yes, I just got a thing from VRBO about my taxes.
Or you can go to
changed.
California with that.
I'm from
0.5%.
California. Hey, I'm from California. Watch it. So point being, I pay my tax to the state of New Hampshire, which we all decided that it doesn't come to the town of Alton,
Right.
but maybe it does in this fine little penny or so. So that's whatever. So we're paying our yearly tax to the state of New Hampshire. Then I'm looking up here on your planning department on page 8 of a $250 permit. I'm going to assume that's annually.
No,
No,
one time,
one time,
I
200.
believe so.
It's
But it's every
per
2 years.
permit.
That's the application. Yes, the application.
Yep, so that's
One
the
time.
application fee. So
One
you
time.
have your application, your permit's good for 2 years, then you come back again
So every
in
2
2
years you
years.
come pay it.
and you would pay the $250.
All right,
Every
I
2
want to
years.
clear that.
is.
Now,
And do you want to know what that's paying for? That
Go ahead.
$250?
yeah,
So that $250 is paying, it goes towards, administratively. So you're paying partially for inspections to take
Okay.
place. You're paying for the research that the planning department will need to do.
okay,
Conversations or whatever back and forth with the butters, mailing out, trying to just, office procedures.
okay. Someone's
Like that.
Someone's little bit of money.
Yeah.
So
And I
now-
imagine at some point they'll have a renewal form or something, so they know it's not a fresh
it's
one
like
out of
when
the
you get our
box.
dog license,
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
we'll get it something in the mail.
Yeah.
Or with our taxes. That would be a good time for this to come with our taxes. Anyway, point being also, I'm a really stupid question. What is a butter?
Next door neighbor.
Next door neighbor.
Thank you.
Someone, their land touches your land.
Or directly across the
Or
street.
across the
I
street.
got the
was
woods
just gonna
across the
say.
street.
Well,
Well,
okay, that
directly
is-
across.
There you're a butter.
someone owns those woods and they're gonna get a notice that you're doing what you're doing.
Okay,
Whoever
So
abuts
we-
your property.
Whoever abuts the property, if they're
Directly
across
across.
a
Bob
river
clearly.
or brook, they're,
all right.
but yes, it's the people around you.
Okay, now I'm looking down here on page 9 on number 7. And it talks about the $275 each day of violation. Can you be a little more?
Yes, in the state
specific?
statute under enforcement.
Uh-huh.
I should know the number, but and they have a set amount of fines. So for the first 15 day, I can't remember the exact number, but let's see. In my case, if I say, you have to stop what you're doing. It's a violation, it's a violation of state law, violence, zoning ordinance, whatever, and you say, no. So once I've documented that for 30 days, it's $275 a day for each day the violation exists. If you stop, then okay, then we'll stop the clock. In the other half of that statute, when you go beyond that 30 days or go beyond that time period, then that becomes a $550 a day fine. But that's not.
That's not here.
We're not
Right, no, it's not.
exercising that here. And a lot of times when people get the letter and it has all that, then a lot of times I get a phone call saying, oh, what can we do?
Okay, okay, I'm thinking,
Yeah,
I'm seeing,
and that's actually in the state law,
okay, I was looking
that
at the
directly
numbers.
from there.
You know, and code enforcement will do every effort to work with people.
Right.
I mean, they
So
really do.
I know,
To add to that,
Yes.
also, not only the $275 fine, is if it goes beyond that, they use the right to have the short-term business for up to 1 year.
oh,
So they can't reapply. If you
Okay.
read to the next page.
okay, okay. So, I'm
Very
sitting here and as Sue said, there's, 300 or however many how many rentals there are in New Hampshire. I have no idea. The point being, I know specifically, I know 2 people specifically that have the same situation I have. One is on Range Road. One is on the lake. So my concern is, why am I sitting here? Why are these people sitting here? Where the hell is everyone else? And who's going to be voting on this shit? Excuse my language.
It's gonna be the
But-
people that show
It'll
up
be
at
the
the
people.
polls.
About 700 and some odd people who.
But-
That's
every
it.
year.
But
That's it.
that's the good old boys club. Remember, that was my.
No, but how many people do you know who are gonna ask you questions, or how many people are you gonna talk to? So a lot of it happens to be, if you're being impacted by an Airbnb next door to you, and you see what we're trying to do, you're gonna be talking to all your friends who are offended some one way or the other,
Right.
and they're all going to be talking. So that's accurate information, but we also have public input before this actually can take place. We have to have other public hearings where we discuss all of these things, why we're doing them.
Deliberative.
The more people that can come to these meetings, the better you can understand it and the better you can get your questions answered.
I mean, I feel like, we missed one meeting. We came to the first one on good faith, just wanting to
Mhm.
know what's going on because like I've told you, we have 2 properties here. We pay property taxes here. We want to make sure that this is all, we're
Absolutely.
doing it just
So
as
you
a little
understand.
side thing. I mean.
Nobody's out to screw anybody, but
No,
we want to protect a lot of the citizens who are
Right.
being offended.
Right. No, I get that. All right. So that was my question. I just curious how we get people out there. The other question, someone, I think, Scott Williams,
Yes.
my friend lives on your street,
Okay.
Denise Kramer, Levine,
Oh, yeah.
Denise and Larry. Anyway, you mentioned something about an ordinance, a noise ordinance.
Yep.
Mhm.
I beg to differ that I do not think there's an ordinance in the woods.
Well,
So-
you know,
There
the
actually
ordinance
is.
is only as good as, if you're offending somebody, they'll call. Other than that, as Red said to Scarlett, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. You know?
Yeah, I know. We called one night because at 10 o'clock at night, there were guns going off.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're like, what's going on? And we called we called the police department. Of course, they don't answer. You know, someone calls back and they said, well, as long as they're not within their range, whatever.
We hear lots of gunfire. and
Yeah,
You live in
yeah.
the country.
Yeah, and the fireworks, yeah. So anyway, whatever. Anyway, so that was just a little side note for you. Is the town, I'm curious, is the town going to hire someone to man all this? Because I
Absolutely not.
don't foresee, are you
That's one
gonna?
of the selectmen. I don't think he's a.
Well, and having said this, we did go through this a couple of years ago, and the potential exists to have someone, if we can justify that this is,
Have an assistant.
you know, I tried to hire an assistant code enforcement officer, the zoning enforcement.
Mhm.
Everybody wants to be the assistant building inspector. Nobody wants to be the assistant bad guy. Because for that enforcement to be done right, it's the face-to-face time is 5 minutes, the paper time and the technical time is hours.
Yeah,
And so that's what it is.
People are gonna come in and they're gonna fill out the applications. They're gonna be denied or approved.
Okay.
Once they're approved, they're gonna have their inspections by the fire department and a code enforcement officer. From there, they should follow their rules and follow what's going on. If they don't, I'm sure there's gonna be kindly neighbors that are gonna make complaints. And then someone is gonna pick up the ball and go out there and respond.
right.
And yes, there will be
And it
people
won't
that,
take long. And I grant you, there's a lot of short-term rentals that are going on right now. But if everybody complies and we have information here in town hall where we can go out and we can help their situation if they have questions, and we can help with the abutting neighbors
Okay.
to clarify any issues or
I
problems.
think we're in a different situation than a lot of people in Alton because of where our property is what I'm envisioning.
And this,
We have a 300-foot driveway.
Right.
Our apartment is not attached.
So you
We've
should have
got-
no issues.
I know, I
You're not gonna
know,
have any
I know, but I think for the people, you know, for instance, you know, where her house is, she's, and your house.
You know, I mean, you talk about not having.
I know your greenhouse, but yeah,
I mean, at 11:30 at night, I should put up with someone that's
No.
out there screaming. and yelling.
you shouldn't, and I agree.
That's what
There,
I'm saying.
that-
okay,
yeah.
let's just try to keep
Anyway, so I'm just,
person at a time.
you know, I guess what I'm wanting to hear from you guys and the town is that people are gonna be supportive and come in here and do the right thing.
Right. And there will be people that fly under the radar.
Of course,
well,
that's gonna happen.
there's always, the idea is that we, like Scott said, level the playing field.
Mhm.
You're playing by the rules. You're playing by the rules. You know, there's a lot, and probably, I'm gonna take a guess, but I'm gonna say at least 60% of the people that do short-term rentals are playing by the rules,
That's right.
or even 80%. But
More
we've
than
got the rest that aren't, and they're taking advantage of the situations.
And some of them may not even be in town or in the state.
Well, there are
That's-
people that
That's the
do
other.
an investment, you know, they should know what needs to be done. It's the homeowner that says, geez, maybe I'll do this like you've done. And you may not know all the rules, but this helps get you in a line that you know what needs to be done for safety and things of that
But you've
nature.
also gone with an organization that guides you and makes sure that you're taking care of your taxes and that,
Mhm.
you know, but if I'm renting a place on Craigslist, we don't know that all that's being done.
Plus, we've rented our own, we've done VRBO, so we know what to expect and what, how to treat a property, but whatever. Okay, so that was, I think, those are my only things. Oh, how many complaints do you guys receive actually in regards to VRBO rentals and people calling and saying there's 50 people in this house and blah, blah, blah? I'm just curious.
I couldn't answer that.
I probably get, I don't know, a half a dozen or so in the summer. You know, and I've had neighbors complaining about particular properties.
Yeah, I'm just
Regular-
curious. Yeah, no,
regular.
I'm just,
Yeah, no, regularly because, and I'm kind of hamstrung because I don't have any way to address it. You know, you got a duplex in the middle of a small residential neighborhood and it's packed.
Yeah.
All the time. And that's not that's running off a Craigslist ad. So we don't even know if they're,
This gives us some teeth,
there's just a little bit of ability to.
gives John some teeth.
And I can speak that even at our camp, there were
Yep.
nights when, there was clearly, the short-term renters in the next,
Into your
association
camp, so I know.
raised some holy hell, they quiet down by 10 o'clock at night, but still it's, up until then, it's outrageous,
Yeah.
Other business, campgrounds. They keep their crowd quiet,
They do.
10 o'clock,
They do.
settle down, 11 o'clock, you're quiet.
Mhm.
And they mean that. And
Generators
this
are
is
off.
the same type of idea that we're trying to achieve.
It's
for
just
the
making it
people.
so it can coexist with the full-time residents when you have a short-term rental right in the middle of that.
Okay.
And just
And,
to,
and it helps everyone.
to feed off of, John, what you were saying about, how many people comply, I think that 5 or 10 years ago, I think the percentages were probably a heck of a lot higher for those that were, considerate of their neighbors and considerate of the property that they own and want to keep and maintain. But I think that that's weaning off as these short-term rentals are taking off and are so profitable. People don't care if somebody comes in, destroys that property in 3-5 years. They don't really care because they've made all their money back tenfold by then.
Okay.
Okay.
No, thank you. I just,
Gentleman next to you. had-
he's my husband.
Yeah, well, he wanted to say something.
Oh, he's the
I
housekeeper.
just had a question.
Just identify yourself for the record, please.
Richard Mullane.
Uh-huh.
What we rent out is apartment over our garage. It has its own separate address. Separate meter and everything. Is this considered separate dwelling unit then? It's a permitted.
It is a permitted accessory dwelling unit. Yes.
It's accessory because you
Yeah.
can't have two separate buildings
It's
on the
because
same lot.
when I will use the term accessory in our world, accessory means it is not you have the primary use of the property is your home.
Right.
Accessory is smaller, subordinate to is the legal term, incidental and subordinate to the primary use. So it's not like having a duplex where they're both equal,
Mhm.
or two houses on the same lot equal. One has to be accessory to the other.
Okay.
So that's when we use the term accessory. That's the meaning of that.
But also allowable in the same zone is you can have a duplex. So
Not in
that's
the rural zone.
on the rural zone.
No.
Sorry.
I'm glad you're
He
here.
sits corrected.
Okay. Do
That's
you have
why
anything
he
else?
is here.
That's right.
No? All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we just had our septic
Anything else, sir?
cleaned out.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Thank you for your.
Thank you.
Mr. Bober. Come on down.
My name is Vince Bober. And I have some questions here on what was presented and what Jessica had done. I guess more than questions, I would like to see some clarifications. Under the short-term rental, I guess it's page 7. Is there any minimum rental days on a short-term rental? You say it's less than 30 days, but is there any minimum for a
We have
short-term
not,
rental?
we have not said it has to be a minimum of, would not. Some of them are a day.
Yeah, the reason I bring this up is my experience has been that when we have 3 turnovers a week, last year it was nasty. When we have 1 turnover a week, not so bad this year.
Right.
Big difference on
Yeah.
on what happens. The other thing here, transient, the definition of transient, I think that should say transient lodging.
Where do you see that? I see,
What-
'cause I
what
see
page?
transient lodge.
Page 7.
Page 7.
Yeah.
Page 7, it says under short-term rental, then it says transient.
I think I agree with him.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I just thought it was.
Because to me, a transient is the person.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, that's minor stuff here. Permit A below under short-term rental, permit use of a unit of housing, short-term rental shall be obtained. I think it's from the planning
I
department.
have the same thing.
Okay. So those are the minor things. Permitting and permit or prohibited the following zones. I see that was left blank, and I guess I would propose that it would be permitted in residential commercial zones. Frankly, I don't see much difference between a short-term rental, hotel, motel, lodging, or or a bed and breakfast. And bed and breakfasts are allowed in, they're allowed in a residential zone, from what I can read. But you also notice that the bed and breakfast, there is an owner on the premises. And I think that makes a tremendous difference. If you're probably, many of you are probably familiar with what was written up in Conway and what they get into there and their permitted uses. I see things like that's a lodging house. I might not have the terminology correct, but they're not permitted in residential areas, but a lodging house with the owner present is permitted in residential areas. So the big differences here on who's there at the property, who's not on the property. So I guess there's a lot of input necessary here to put it where it is permitted. If we go to page 8, I just have some comments I'd like to make. We haven't really addressed positively what is the loading for a house that's rented out for short term, and that is how many people per bedroom. And I would propose that 2 adults and 1 child per bedroom. And the bedrooms, I think, are determined by what the tax card says on it. That determines the bedrooms. And again, the number of bedrooms that's permitted for may change as our building inspector comes along and looks at the sewer system in there. I could see where that could change up or it could change down.
I don't make that change.
Well, you don't.
No, that you get a septic design approved by the state and that goes in the ground and that's that. Right.
Okay.
That's what it says. It says that is
the number
with 3-bedroom system.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to have more than 3 bedrooms in the house.
His only action is to review the plan before it goes in to make certain things are met.
Or if there's a problem.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
that's an
Yeah,
expert.
I don't do that adjustment. That's above that. That's at the state level, which I'm more than happy.
Not your job description.
I'm more than happy. Like I said, I do review plans before they go, but that's more for local knowledge.
What do we do, for catching up to these ancient systems? At any rate, my proposal is, 2 adults, 1 child per bedroom, and it would be spelled out by the bedrooms would be spelled out on the tax card. The other thing is, I notice other places request a drawing to scale showing the enclosed spaces, sleeping areas, and any other areas in the house itself. And I would think that would be helpful to the planning people that are issuing these permits to know, hey, what do we really have here? And I think they should also show property lines and things of that nature. I'm not talking about some fancy architectural drawing or anything, but a fairly reasonable sketch on that that would show up.
On that note is someone can draw anything they want because a surveyed plan is the only thing that the town can really look at and say, that's the real McCoy. So a sketch, I don't think has any validity because of what it could be. I mean, who knows where the property lines are? And some people don't tell the truth.
Right. Exactly.
Okay.
And sometimes people think it's here. And even the neighbors say, oh yeah, it's there. And then it comes out that it's here.
8 feet
10
over.
feet, 15 feet over. We did a zoning case just recently that everybody for 40 years agreed that the property line was right here. Well, when the surveyor went out there, it found out that the deck was over, the neighbor's deck was over the property line. Which they resolved, but I mean, these things,
I'm sure.
They
that-
exist.
They exist,
I'm
they
sure that
exist.
happens more than we'd like to think that it does. But at any rate, parking spaces, how do we deal with parking spaces?
Inspection.
Well, to make sure there's no,
An apartment would require, if you had an apartment, it would require 2 spaces.
Mhm.
So I think 2 spaces would probably be something along the lines of what this
Well,
would support.
with at least 2
Your minimum.
spaces is what you, a minimum of 2 spaces.
2.
Yeah, if you have 3 bedrooms, you could conceivably have 3 families coming in.
least.
You're gonna have 3 parking places and a parking place for their boat. You know, there's a lot of things to consider here.
Well, again,
But it's the same aspect, Mr. Bo, we can't micromanage it down to a T that nobody will comply with it.
Yeah.
We've got to keep it somewhat a
exactly.
reasonable level.
I mean, we can put on there that no off-street parking or anything like that, or making sure you don't park on neighbors' right of ways or driveways, that you have a driveway, a minimum of 2. And it's up to the people that own the property to determine whether or not that there's enough adequate space for putting in a boat, a boat trailer or anything like that. I mean,
Is there a site in town for excess parking? If you have a trailer and you need to put it someplace?
You can
down
leave it
run across from the highway
Highway
department.
Letter S Road.
Yeah, but
I mean-
no overnight parking there.
Right.
Right, that's right. That's right.
So if
Letter
I
S.
had, I had a boat on a trailer.
Yep.
Where could I put it?
Your house,
You're gonna have to put it in your property if there's adequate space.
see if
Wait a
Scott's got
minute,
room. to put
Oh,
it.
Scott has room? Okay.
I'm not,
See, that's,
No, but yes,
I'm not
that's-
sure I agree with that. There's town parking for boat trailers right down by the town garage.
right. but
that's Letter S Road.
Night.
And it's
There's no-
good for 72 hours, I believe.
Oh, I thought-
No, I believe it's posted no overnight.
It's not
parking.
overnight.
Now it's posted over and over.
I think
I'm
the sign
pretty
said-
sure it is.
I thought the sign
Well,
said 72 hours, but
Well, you're gonna make me
At
go
any
there
rate,
tomorrow and look.
yeah.
Yeah, I'll go look.
I'm gonna look on my way home.
This is,
Okay.
this
I go the other
particular,
way.
Take the scenic.
I was gonna look.
this particular thing is not something I can sit here and say, you can only have 3, you can only have 2, you can only have 2. This one is gonna be an actual looking at the site, physically looking
Well,
at the
that's-
site and thinking what's the risk of blocking in? You know, someone say, well,
Right.
this is all my parking. And then I'm looking at Bill O'Brien's house in the back and his driveway goes through. No, it's not all your parking. You know,
Who determines what that maximum number of cars would be?
that would be done during the application process. And if necessary, if we
Well,
have to go.
I think that.
That needs to be on there.
You know,
I
there
think
could
that
be
needs to be done.
number of, on the application, it says number of spaces allotted to this.
Right, they gotta have a minimum of 2.
Yep.
Per,
But you know, if they have
Rental.
a half a dozen, they have a half a dozen, but
what?
I just think it should be specified. And what do you do when somebody rents out a place for a given amount of time? Then they invite all their friends to come up for the day, and where do they park? You know, you got a maximum number of parking places.
Again, we
That's
can't
the
tie this down so tight
No,
that it
no,
is,
no.
this poor guy will go out of his mind.
Right,
I mean-
or the police, the police
Some,
department.
some locations will have extra space and some won't.
But there should be a allotted number of spaces to that rental property.
Absolutely.
Why do I want to have overflow parking on my property?
You shouldn't have to
Don't
deal with that.
endure that at all.
Well,
Not unless they're paying you well.
Yeah.
Not unless they're paying you well.
Unless you advertise, you're parking here for X amount of dollars.
Not advertised.
Going to a Red Sox
Oh,
game, you
yeah.
know, $60 short walk.
Yeah.
It was 20 when I last went.
Well,
Well, that was a while ago.
Yeah.
at any rate, I also think, how about when they have guests in for the day, what time do they have to leave? These people can't stay overnight. I'm proposing that they leave by 11 o'clock. And I propose that the noise ordinance pertaining to this says, hey, you got to knock it off at 10 o'clock. You know,
Well,
so
the
the neighbors.
zoning-
can
Right,
leave.
that-
The noise ordinance, I believe, is 11, John, am I correct?
Yeah, it is.
it is.
No,
Yeah.
I'm
It
pretty
is.
sure it's 11 o'clock. So we could not make it for these different than everybody else. Everybody else. has
That's
to-
asking for a
everybody has to-
lawsuit.
That's asking.
Yes,
for a
it
lawsuit.
is. It
Exactly.
is.
There. So it's, everybody's gonna be on the same playing field.
It's,
Okay.
That gets a little bit too much.
And I think as well, telling them that all your guests have to go home by 10 is, you know, that gets a,
10 o'clock's a little
Sticky.
bit early to tell them.
That
yeah,
gets,
it
Well, not
gets into
anymore.
sticky
Not
or
early.
11.
that's micromanaging, that's,
Yeah.
For the young ones, it is. Yeah, but I think, you know, there's a certain point in time that the guests that are not registered or permitted to be in that property overnight need to leave. And I don't think it should be 3 o'clock in the morning.
well, if they're not being disorderly and they're not making noise and they're parked in a off-street parking on the property, I can't see how that can be a problem.
You're right. It wouldn't be a problem if all those
But if-
criteria. are met.
But if it was somebody that was making a lot of noise, there goes the noise ordinance, the police are informed.
Yeah, we have to
So
really
we have to be
balance
careful.
this thing out. We can't load this up to the point that it just smothers everybody because
That's
it'll
exactly
get
what it'll do.
loaded down and nobody's gonna be happy with what we try to achieve. So we've got to keep that in mind as something that the voters can tolerate
Mhm.
because we don't want to be unfair to people, but we want to be fair to the people that this could affect. So
Okay, I guess I don't have much else to say, except that I would say one thing. However this is written, it's got to be written very careful, or it's not going to get past the voters and we'll be all sitting here at the same time next year.
yeah.
Saying the
Yeah,
same.
good
thing
point.
Yeah,
over and
and the
over.
thing about it is
It's a
to,
tough-
if
it's a
to
tough
have
job.
an ordinance that is pages like this
Mhm.
is gonna be a very difficult ordinance to
Mhm.
pass.
Well,
just
yes, it
because
is.
it's gonna-
A lot of people aren't gonna take the time to read it all
So
the way
if we
through.
can find a way to condense this thing
Mhm.
down to a point that say, this is what we're aiming for. And it may need to be tweaked later on, you know,
Well,
to see some of these things that are glaring at us, but
Mhm.
I
So
think
we could put in another warrant article as well that says in the case of this defeat, is this something that should be continued to be pursued by the zoning amendment committee and kind of get some town feedback on that as well.
that's
It's a thought.
I don't foresee it being defeated. I really don't.
well, you never know.
I don't know.
I don't know. I
don't
think
Tom,
to Scott's point,
didn't think it would be difficult to adjust the location of a lumber yard either.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, look where that
It's
goes.
understanding.
The more there is to read, the
And
more
I will throw-
confusion.
If you don't understand it, vote
Don't
no.
understand it, it's,
I will throw another.
gonna be a no.
for instance out there. The ambulance was always self-supporting. But we had to ask the voters to use that money that it generated every year. And there's still like 250 people that voted against that. And it cost the taxpayer nothing. And you have to realize if that ordinance failed, there would not have been an ambulance service the next morning.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Plain and simple. So people vote no, just they don't want to see anything. And I can respect that
Mhm.
because, government overreach is alive and well. And
Yeah.
I think in Conway, they had something in there that to the effect that when this didn't pass, it tossed it back in the laps of the I think the planning board, was it maybe, to make these decisions.
this is a committee of the planning board.
Yeah.
Mhm.
But all I'm saying is it gave them some powers
Okay.
outside of what did not pass.
okay.
The purpose of this committee is we have a selectman representative who happens also to be a zoning board representative, building inspector, the planning town planner, and 3 members of the
Right.
planning board. So we're getting as many different perspectives and points of view and working on problems that both the planner and the building inspector, health officer see cropping up each year. So it's we started preparing some of these things June?
Since last year.
Yeah.
So, so we're working a year ahead on correcting places where we find problems. And it's probably, I think, the most creative and most organized committee that I've ever served on. It really is worthwhile.
This gives us the opportunity to be more taxpayer based. Because before, the planner usually would jot down these things, and probably in conjunction with the building inspector, we gotta solve this. And then it'd be presented to the planning board. And we
Mhm.
say, yes or no. But now we have participation from everybody.
Input from the public.
And I feel this is a much better process to move these things forward, because an educated public is great to have them as educated as possible. So.
And we had to, one of the things, and I'm going to use, if you want to come on up, and I just want to say this, I'm going to use as an example, the conversation that we had about the special exception. You know, initially when I came up and we talked about the special exception thing, that this is it's a technical term that not everybody understands. And what got lost was the special exception, which was actually the most important part of this paragraph, because it narrowed down what it was applicable to. But it's hard to try to make that as understandable as possible, if you will. People will say, well, I don't, and I have to, one of the things that I have to do on a daily basis is I have to put myself in your shoes. So when you ask me a question about this, I can explain it to you so that you understand it.
Like
I don't use tech speak. And then this is, if a guy is a carpenter, he can talk to 4 other carpenters and you probably won't understand what they're saying if you're standing there listening to them. But if there's 5 of what you do, and so one of the biggest challenges I have is to make sure that I can try to get these across, these answers to people.
So
and that's a hard thing when we're trying to go to the voters.
Yes.
And who may take, okay, yeah, oh yeah, look, that says I can't have it because I have an ADU and I can't use it. Those kinds of things. That's a huge challenge. And I've been doing this now.
A couple of years.
We've been doing this committee now for close on to 10 years.
Yeah.
Close.
Pretty close.
Yeah.
I don't know of any other town that does a committee like this.
Yeah.
And I can tell you in the 10 years that I've been sitting here doing this, we've never had this many people come to us and offer this input. And we would love to have that every year, on these things.
It's so important.
The zoning ordinance is a living document. We have to adapt to the times. So there's things in here that were written in 1970. Might want to take a look at
68.
Well, you were here for that, so that's not.
But you were the one of the few that was here.
Sorry.
This is not, you're right, this is not a simple undertaking. And yes, we try to condense it down, but there's still, I was a mechanic by trade. I understand mechanics, but I don't understand computers. I open that up and I'm lost, start talking about I'm lost. So we're trying to, but the key thing is to try to get as much information out to people as possible. I'm not trying to run my mouth.
I think I've taken up.
No.
Thank you.
Appreciate your input. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
Are you gonna say something? Okay.
She's
Sue.
You snuck up here quick again.
your name
I
again.
wanted to get
Someone
it.
called me up.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
I think that this is a prime example of there's so much confusion in this. It is not crystal clear. It's not crystal clear to you. And what she said about the meeting last week, I do remember the last meeting that we had. Someone said that will put that woman out of business. And you said yes. That was what was discussed last meeting. I do recall that now that the conversation has come up. So there is confusion, and it is you think that I do insurance for a living. I know what's going to come for litigation for us. I know what's going to happen. And you're using Conway as a reference. You're using Laconia as a reference. They are in litigation. It is costing the town money. This is not a representation of the town. This is like a few people that happen to catch it on Facebook. It warrants a study committee. And I would only say that if you're going to do this and it's becoming a big issue, don't do it wrong, because you'll lose all credibility. And it's a big, I don't want to overstate I pay taxes here just like everybody else. I pay taxes year round, and I only spend the summers here. My house is open year round, but I don't get to vote. The people that this impact, a huge portion of the people that this impacts don't get to vote. Therefore, I don't think this is just a ballot issue. I think it's a town issue, and you should have respect for all of the taxpayers to get their input on this in the form of a study committee before it goes on the ballot. I just think that that's general respect, because even your study, your survey that went out, 40% of the people that you mailed to were out of town. You want to hear their input about growth. We should hear their input about the impact on them. We bought these
know that
houses with an
We're a
understanding
summer
that we
loaded town. I mean, we know that.
Yeah.
We've always known that. I mean,
Mhm.
the population increases 2 or 3-fold in the summertime here. You know, I mean,
Right.
try to get on Main Street in the summertime, you know? I mean, it's tough.
And it's
So,
getting extended more every year.
Right. And there, at some point, we're gonna see no change in traffic in the seasons because we're gonna have so many people here. Because it's a beautiful place, 12 months of the year.
So, and I appreciate you're wanting to get a study committee together and probably get more of the public input involved, but Tom, you were on the master plan committee. How many of the public showed up for that? Very well announced and publicized.
Almost nobody. You know,
And-
it just, it's
And that does happen.
pathetic that people are willing to come and bitch at a different time, but they won't show up for a meeting.
And I was involved with the All In for Alton a number of years ago, and it was amazing that there was just so few people that showed up for those meetings. It was a fraction. So we had, how many people vote who were eligible to vote? What was the percentage?
Well, there are
700 and something?
That was it.
Residents and about 700-ish vote.
Right,
I
actually
worked
voted.
at the polls and I was there and I've been there a couple of years in a row. And it's a low turnout.
Yeah.
It always is for voting. And it amazes me how many people that just don't vote
I
or
think
don't get
750,
involved and don't care.
800
I think
max.
residentially you had like 1,400 and that was like off the charts.
Yeah. Yeah.
But we,
Doesn't mean that we don't want to do this right. And we, we talk about putting restrictions on stuff. We also have to be careful that it's not considered a taking, which means I'm taking something from you that you're entitled to, or to,
people bought houses here with an understanding that they could rent them.
Understanding from whom?
but no,
A realtor.
Tom,
I'm sorry, I don't have a.
Tom, that understanding also comes from the fact that it has been done
Right.
It's
for so long.
Yeah.
Right.
That it's
It was-
just been a natural thing for someone to come here, and
But it's also a natural thing for the town to defend itself.
no, I don't argue.
You know,
that.
as a guy that's done businesses over the years, when you go to start a business, first thing you go to the zoning ordinance and see what's going on. And you should know that document. We all know that document, not all of it apparently. 'cause
No,
the
no.
rural zone.
It's my document and I still don't know everything.
Yeah,
It's,
I mean,
it's tough to know all of it.
Yeah.
It's
but,
impossible.
You know, that is afforded to them. Everybody that buys property in the town of Alton can look at our zoning ordinance and figure things out. So yes, it's buyer beware. End of story.
I understand. That. I just hope that by not doing it correctly and not having the right input, not having the right legal verbiage, and not having the comments that you're talking about and the confusion and the chaos that this creates, I don't want it to push people underground. They should be going through Airbnb. They should make sure they have coverage. You don't want them on Craigslist. And
Right.
what are you going to do when someone says, oh, they had guests after 11 o'clock, or they had 6 guests and they're only supposed to have 4? That's a due process. That's your time. You have to call me and say, and I'll say, it was my brother. It was my guest.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm still a homeowner here with rights. And these people aren't, if they're being nasty and they're not taking good care of their properties and they're overfilling it again, I don't think they're going to be honest with you. It's going to be hard to find them. I mean.
That's part of the
fine,
permit. They have to give us a name and a number that can be gotten hold of in 30 minutes.
But
But my point is that if this person isn't respecting their neighbors or their property, are they gonna say, oh, I'm really sorry? we're
They'll be
going
shut
to
down.
Fine, they're
Yeah.
gonna say, that was me that was there. It's hard to prove that there's even a renter in there versus the owner.
Right.
There's logistics to this that are just very complicated, I think. And
You
it's gonna
can't,
take up.
But
It's a-
the neighbors will throw that person under the bus.
Exactly. I was just gonna,
sometimes.
there's gotta be some sort of guideline.
and you can't
And it's the
be,
beginning of a guideline and a guideline to help control where we're going with this in the town.
Yeah.
And to help with the residents that are abutters. And they're gonna scream the loudest if something is wrong. And so that with these rules enforced, could stop them from having the Airbnb or the short-term rental, I should say, for up to a year. And they have to reapply for the whole process all over again. So there are areas of controlling or helping with that.
So
Okay.
nothing is foolproof and nothing is
No.
100%. And yes.
This
we're
has
gonna-
not yet gone to the attorney.
Right, and a guideline is set a capacity limit. This is not a guideline. This is a manual, and this is complicated. That's my only.
I
point.
agree.
Mhm.
And
I don't
I
argue.
It is.
just think
Okay, I'm
that's
gonna,
not-
Thank you.
you can come back again,
No,
but I'm gonna
I'm
let
not.
other people cycle through. Yeah,
Yeah, of course.
tell us who you are, though. No, not like we don't know.
Yeah.
Know who I am. Bill O'Brien.
Have a seat.
Like I told you people last week, or the last time we met, you're definitely on the right track. I mean, I lived in a nice neighborhood in Rhode Island. And one of the bigger houses in the neighborhood decided that they wanted to open it up to release prisoners. So what happened was, there was all this stuff going on in the neighborhood, and it was a lawyer who owned the house.
Jeez.
But there was nothing written that said you couldn't have parolees living in this house. So you're on the right track, Bill. Definitely on the right track. I think the thing what everybody's missing is, we're talking about people that are buying up Walton Bay that don't live here. That's the main problem. That Bay Landing just sold. You know who it sold to, John. It sold to the people aside of me. So now what you're getting is, you're getting them spreading out. So they don't really care about Alton.
No, they don't.
They don't care the least bit about Alton Bay.
What's the Bay Landing?
That's that multi-unit across from,
Just before Sandy Point,
yeah, just before.
on the
This you
opposite
come
side.
across
on the
Oh,
opposite
this
side.
is Chafee's Cabins?
With the
ago.
fourth unit never got built?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
So now all of a sudden, you've got that gentleman that lives aside of it. Now, everything is just completely blown up to him because he has no idea what's gonna happen. And he's been a very, very good neighbor. I have no problem with Airbnb or whichever they have. But if they live in New Hampshire, they have a little bit more respect for the people of New Hampshire than these people who are coming in and buying it up. I mean, the perfect example is Nantucket. How many people who grew up in Nantucket live there? You know, it's all being bought out.
Yeah.
The people with the money are buying it out, and they're the ones that are gonna set the rules. Because they're the ones that can go up there and say, I want this, this, and this.
My cousin was blamed for a mile of it.
So,
Unfortunately, it's the land tax in Concord that sets the tax rate and the value rate. So,
Yeah, but
But
they set the rate, but we feed them the information that tells them what the rate should be. So,
right, but the market determines the value.
Right, yeah, when you have a
So,
deed
I mean-
that you've sold the place for $500,000, that creates value. That's
That
the
means
value.
that it's worth that.
exactly.
No,
So that's why the property value keeps going up, because people are more than willing to pay it.
but it doesn't mean that doesn't mean it's worth it. It just means what it's sold for.
It's,
Yeah,
it's what someone was willing to pay.
but that's what the assessor will base their
Of
stuff on.
course, you have no option.
Willing buyer, willing seller.
Yeah,
So
Right.
I just wanted to say that.
Okay.
I mean, when I moved in, that was residential. Now it's, I don't know what you call it. So I mean, it's just getting more and more.
well, the Winter Bay cottages have been there since I
Oh,
ever.
Yeah, that,
And
Yes, they have.
There you
And
go.
where
That's
that
a
other
difference though.
Yeah, but the other place up there was Chafee's
She
Cottages back.
lives there.
Yeah.
So those girls keep everything under their thumb,
Yeah,
Right.
which
yeah.
makes a big difference. They've
But
been absolutely
you just said it was a
perfect neighbors.
residential area and it really is.
Oh, no,
not.
I'm not.
Okay.
I'm saying the house beside of me was. My house and,
Right.
yeah, right. Whereas that one in front of me was a residential. Mine's a residential. and the guy
right,
on
yeah,
the other side of me-
the use was residential. It was a single family home. Well, it had a small apartment upstairs, but yeah.
So, that's all I wanted to say. I mean, what are you gonna do? You either get out and go somewhere else. I don't know. I've tossed that up in the air and.
Well, the town can defend it too.
Pardon?
The town can defend the property rights of the individuals.
Yeah.
That's, I think, what we're attempting to do here.
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree with you. You're coming up with some rules and regulations, and like you said, I mean, it's a business. Business has rules and regulations. I mean, there's fire alarm systems. I mean, I had to make sure all my doors in my nursery center swung out. I had to have means of egress from the second floor. So you're absolutely right. If you're running a business, you have to run a business accordingly. So you're right, Paul. Oh, I thank you for listening.
Thanks.
Now I'll go home and watch the Red Sox beat the Yankees.
Yeah.
We hope, we hope, we hope.
You folks, you have anything you'd like to add? Okay,
Thank you.
if you'd like to say something else different from what we have talked about before, ma'am. We're not going to talk about the same things we've talked about because we've talked about them. So if you have anything else to say, I'd gladly let you come up, but if not, I'm gonna close public input. Yes, ma'am.
Just want to make sure that ours is legit.
I'm the guy that makes, I'm the guy that's legally tasked to make that decision. It's
Not
my
us.
legal responsibility to make those decisions.
You and I will be the best friends.
Okay.
It shouldn't be based on that, though.
At this point, I'll close public input.
Okay.
Thank you all, by the way.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Being here. Okay, one thing I want to say as to this, I'm going to give everybody homework. Let's peruse this and see what we might be able to do to condense
To
it,
condense it a little bit.
and still get our point across. Because I really have worries that 3-4 pages is going to just tip people over.
This is exactly what I'm worried about.
Yep.
Right.
The more there is to read, the more they're gonna breeze through it and
And
go,
say no.
I don't understand it. No.
Right. And I just wanted to add that I haven't added language in here for seasonal dwelling units. So
Okay.
it would be even longer. That was my point.
Okay, well, maybe that would be better to substitute one of the items that it hasn't, maybe put that on its own merit versus try to put all the pickles in the barrel. I don't know, what everybody thinks, but I think we ought to try to condense
That's it.
somehow.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna give you directions. And you all look at it too and see how we might be able to condense this to make it more palatable. And then it would, what we would do, once we decide that we've landed on something, then Jessica will get a hold of the town attorney. He'll review it and do his edits as he sees fit. And, he could tell us,
Realities.
nope, you're not ready yet. That he could tell us. And, but I will let him, in his own words, say that.
Do we have a date for the next meeting?
I think we do.
Yeah, we do.
Yes.
That's what I'm trying to announce to
What's the date?
everyone here.
Today is,
This, the 5th. Today's the 5th.
Tuesday, October 26th
26.
is our next meeting.
October 26th?
I will not
October
be,
26th.
I will not be present at that meeting, so. you
Okay.
got it, Drew.
Golly, thanks.
And
What's that?
I'd like to make one quick comment. If any of you have any input prior to that, or something you think you want to contribute, email us or call us.
Yeah.
And I will, if you email me, email Jessica, send it to both of us, and one of us should be able to answer.
They work
Well,
together.
they communicate. I mean, they're.
Their offices are right.
In all honesty, this is about how far apart we sit every day. Our offices are open to each other. We are constantly at each other's desks, discussing things, going over things. So and I know I've worked in towns where people don't even talk to each other to say good mornings. Unfortunately. Very fortunate.
So on this proposed amendment, though, we still have a number of highlighted areas here that need the blanks filled in. And I think that, as anxious as we are to go watch the Red Sox kick some Yankee butt, I think we ought to try and get some stuff plugged in.
Yep, let's do it.
Well, I mean, start with the first one, what zone is it? What zone is it permitted by right? Which means without having to go to the zoning board. Right. What zone is it required zoning board, a special exception for zoning?
So,
And essentially right now it occurs in all zones. So.
Exactly.
my first gut reaction is that it should be required a special exception in all zones. And it kind of hits I know. Look at the guy over here.
I'm not a big
Oh,
fan of that either.
I don't know about that.
Bangs out two birds with one stone in the sense that you now have notified all of the abutters.
Well, but then
through that
But we
process.
through the
notifying all the
application
abutters.
process, they're gonna get notified anyway by certified mail, you mentioned.
Yes.
Right,
Right, but-
through the application process, but I was just thinking that it also, when they go to apply for the special exception, the abutters are also getting notified.
Right.
Yeah, but how many times
Ahead
do
of
they need to be
And
notified?
up, then here's my
That's it, only
Here's
once, that
my-
was the idea.
argument against that. Let's say we have 300, rentals, which I think would be an absolute reasonable number.
Yeah, I think you're probably
No,
accurate.
I think he's
If
right.
not more in this town. The zoning board will be meeting weekly to try to accommodate that.
Yep.
That's just, to me, I think that's too much.
Okay,
I think it is.
I think to
I don't think it's
say,
necessary.
I think to restrict it, also, we have to be careful. If we say, okay, every zone but the RS zone, which is the recreational services zone, which is, and they're very small zones.
And no living conditions are permitted there unless they're accessory.
According to the zoning ordinance, you're not allowed to have a house, a residential use in that zone. One of those zones is strictly residential use. There is no marina, there's no boat related,
Oh,
there's no.
Milt's old place.
And so if we say you can't have it in the zone, they're already doing it there. Or, okay,
We have a problem.
Roger Street, Route 11D, Roger
Anchorage
Street,
trailer.
Mount Major
Used to be
Park,
Anchorage trailer.
yeah,
that's all RS zone. So where,
Starts on
People-
Temple Drive, I believe,
yeah.
at the old
So,
Caveney property.
yeah,
as well as
yeah.
Temple's property.
But anyways, what I'm saying is, we have quite a number of homes that are there, that have been there since
That's when
Okay.
someone was.
When the
a
train,
former-
when the train went by, they were
when the
there.
train went through.
That was a former selectman who lived there and got it changed when he was
But the
in.
point is, we have to look at that too and say, if those people are actively doing it and have been doing it forever, was it Boulder
Lodge.
Lodge? And now we're telling them, you have to stop.
Right, and get a special.
We're gonna be in court. Up to our-
Guaranteed.
okay.
So saying, I'm not sure that it'd be very hard to quantify where you would require a special exception.
Mhm.
That,
Mhm.
because it has to be, kind of a special circumstance. An accessory dwelling unit in the Lakeshore Residential Zone, we're trying to preserve the residential character of the Lakeshore Residential Zone. And it is one of our most restrictive zones. It's a very restrictive zone as far as businesses and those types of things. Not allowed to have a pig farm in the Lakeshore Residential Zone. You can have it across the street in the rural zone, but anyway, that's the point. But still, to quantify where we need to say, yes, you have to have a special exception is something that requires a lot of thought, a lot of research. So
Okay.
I guess the one question in this is there are places in every zone that would work. And there are places in just about every zone that would offer conflicts. So is that going to be caught by the planning department?
Well, let's put it this way. When the application gets out, they're gonna notify the abutters by certified mail.
Yeah, okay.
That is their opportunity for their voice to be heard.
Exactly.
But, oh yeah, well, yeah. So even if someone is living somewhere else, they can
As
contact
long
by
as they
mail.
get their mail, they're gonna know about it.
like we keep saying, there's a lot
To it.
of moving parts in this.
Mhm.
And there's more, as you peel away the layers of the onion, there become more and more moving parts. And
It's supposed to get smaller. They're not supposed to keep adding layers.
I don't know, these onions grow the other way or whatever. I don't know.
Okay.
A blooming onion this
So
big.
do we want to say the zones,
All zones.
all zones, special exception Lakeshore Residential?
No, zero.
Zero.
All
All zones.
Zero,
whatever.
all
Well,
zones
and
and zero special exception.
Okay.
Perhaps in the RS zone, if they're going to establish a new one, they need a special exception. I don't know.
Because I
Or
thought
maybe we
you,
should rezone that particular one. and add it into the lakeshore residential like everything around it. But that's a thought for another day.
One reason, get rid of the Lake LR.
No,
Oh,
no,
okay.
get rid of that one RS.
Oh, get rid of that one.
Yeah, because it's never gonna be. First, then it will make the transport.
Yeah.
The part.
Non-conforming.
That's another, like I said, that's another, but this is where the parts start to shift around and move.
Right, right.
Okay, we plugged in all zones there.
Permitted in all zones,
Yes.
no special exceptions.
No special exceptions
At this point. in
at this
time.
point.
Okay, move down to the short-term rental, 365 A1A.
Permitted or prohibited dwelling zone.
Same thing, all.
Right.
Mhm. At the bottom of the page. Page
7.
7. Same one that we
And,
were on,
and strike the permitted
right here.
zones by personal exception.
Mhm.
So get rid of B.
Well, except for does,
No, okay.
I think we need to
I am
reword
lost.
I.
What, are we on B?
Page 7.
Yeah,
We're on A and B.
365
right.
A1A.
One, A, you just said all zones,
All
correct?
zones, right.
All zones,
Yep.
like
And
we did
B-
up above.
And B, it says permitted in the bunk zone by special exception. And we're
Right, so
striking.
we're striking
special
B.
except.
Mhm.
So that's.
All we're
how-
doing is repeating exactly what we did up here.
Right.
so does little I,
That has to be reworded.
does that become B?
No, that becomes a subparagraph to A.
Okay,
Okay.
But it has to be clear so that as in Elaine's case,
Yeah.
right.
If,
So
if we can, Jess, if we can clean up the language there to make it clear as mud.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know,
clearer
That's
than
that's
mud.
definitely, that's definitely gonna be cleared up and
Yeah.
to understand that a little bit better.
okay, next page, page 8. Item 2, letter C, triple I. No basin space shall be used as sleeping areas unless there's properly sized egress windows and doors confirming the town's adopted codes. Would that handle sprinklers? Because if someone wanted to
Well, the
sprinkle.
option, yeah, I mean, that gives it the if you
option.
if you don't have egress, you have to be sprinkled.
Right.
That's one or the other.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So do
That
we
covers
need to
that.
say sprinkled or just adopted codes?
Conforming to the codes.
Okay.
Towns adopted codes.
So,
Code says it shall either have, appropriate egress or shall
yeah,
have.
and this is clearly life safety, and I wouldn't recommend messing with this whatsoever. You know,
Mhm.
because basements, people die in basements. Try going.
So that's
down this-
good as
But
is.
it's good as is, as long as there's adequate egress windows
And following
and
the code.
doors and following.
Following the code,
Yep.
because that way.
I
if
just
they
wanted to
want-
make sure on that one,
Yep.
because that one was.
That one's,
Yeah,
the
Pretty important.
wording on that is
town
good.
code is what covers the whole situation.
Yes.
Okay, the item V is in Victor. Determine maximum occupancy dwelling unit, floor space, square footage shall be confirmed. with
I'd like
septic
some more time to address that.
Okay,
Okay.
I started a conversation with Conway about it because I had a conversation with DES,
yeah,
Don Bucher down at DES. And she referred me to Conway because they had a conversation because I was trying to get a body per, a number of bodies. Where did they get this?
where'd it come from?
Where'd it
So,
come from?
Yeah,
So
Yeah.
So I think though that there was one great point brought up that the determination of how many bedrooms, if we're going to be doing the calculation based on bedrooms, that it's per the tax card identification.
septic.
And the septic.
Yeah.
But the septic says.
The septic
is
is-
allowable, septic system,
Yeah.
what size it
Handle the
is
loading.
to handle 3
It
bedroom,
should,
2 bedroom. one
ideally,
bedroom.
Should correspond ideally. but-
ideally, those numbers should match.
Yeah.
Yes.
but Drew, they don't,
Yeah,
because if you have a place that was built in the 50s, who knows what's in the ground?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I
and
mean,
so they
if
could have
they're-
6 bedrooms,
We've
No,
got a
what-
holding tank, but it never needs pumping.
right?
If we know, I've got a septic
Irving
design
told me that one.
on file, I have a record.
yeah.
I have a septic design of record. And it says 3, and the tax card says 4, then something's got to give. And I've had that conversation with people. I said, you go back and you make it right with the assessor, or this is what it's going to be.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then but those numbers would have to match.
The
That makes sense.
The tax card is the holy grail.
Right.
What can hold.
Well, no, but I mean, if the septic design is not,
It will say what the house is.
yeah.
If it's a 2-bedroom house, the tax card's gonna say it's 2 bedroom.
Should. It doesn't always.
So-
Doesn't, al-
It doesn't
won't
always. No, I'm telling
You
you
have
right
to
now.
prioritize.
It
So
does
the
not
highest
always.
priorities, the highest priority would be the septic
Septic system.
design and then.
if it can handle it.
Right, and then the next would be the tax card. Second.
Somebody wants a 4-bedroom house and they got 2-bedroom septic, then they gotta go get a 4-bedroom septic design. I mean, that's my answer.
Yep.
And that's been my answer. since
Good
I've done
answer.
this,
Yeah,
is you come back with a design that says that a state approved design.
Okay,
and it's in the ground.
let's move on to the next one.
yeah.
We're handling only yellow ones at this time.
Yep,
And if we need to talk about green ones, we'll go back. I don't want anybody confused. Oh, now this is yellow on top of green, Jess. What are we to do?
Jump.
No, I think we discussed this already.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That
Yeah.
the applicant will be given the opportunity to make the application complete.
Yeah.
And then the clock starts ticking once we
Right.
deem it complete.
Yeah.
Same as
Yep, so
either of them.
That's easy enough.
that's done. So
So-
Jess, you're good with that. And that's it on the yellows. Okay, let's go back to the start again on page 7. Okay, the first one here says see additional criteria outlined in section 365, short-term rental. That's one just below us here. What is the situation with that? Do we just want to say further research down below it? Is that what that?
I'm
you
sorry,
mean by
where are you at?
The
See
see additional
additional-
criteria.
Additional
Right here.
criteria.
Oh,
Page 7.
okay, so on some of the definitions that have their own section
Yep,
throughout the zoning ordinance, it does give a little reference to,
Okay,
you know,
so
see,
this is just a
see a
reference.
whole section.
yeah, kind
Yeah.
of like a code book.
Yeah, so that way, when you're looking at the definition, you're like, oh, okay, there's a whole
Yeah.
section on that.
Okay, I have no problem.
And
with
so
that.
you go to that section.
Yeah, okay,
obtained by
good.
the-
So for more
Yeah,
information,
this-
yeah,
Yep,
for
that's good.
additional
So turn that
criteria.
red.
yeah.
Yep, that's.
And then
all set.
not highlighted though, or green or whatever, was going to be transient lodging. We were going to make that
Oh, yeah.
correction, I think.
Yes.
Yes,
Transient lodging, where was that?
Right on that
Right.
page
short-term
7.
rental, the top line.
So it's, yeah, so it's at the very top and then it appears again under
Mhm.
the definition.
Transient lodging.
What's
Then,
the,
so the next,
what word are you gonna use?
if we were gonna add something to transient, I would put transient lodging.
Right,
Okay.
and then that
Consistent.
mimics the
Always try to
language.
stay as consistent as
Yeah.
possible.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
but it
One down.
doesn't here.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for
very much.
coming.
Good night.
Thank you.
Best rivalry in all of sports.
Transient, lodging here,
Right,
up here.
up there. And then again, so where it's actually listed as the definition is going to be, it's going to say
Right.
transient lodging.
Instead of the definition stating
There,
transient.
right there.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay,
Go find that.
okay.
and,
Next would be planning department, that's in
yeah,
green.
and we're gonna change by to from.
Yep.
Okay.
I did that before the meeting.
Oh, and there's one other that I noticed.
What page is
Are
that?
you jumping ahead?
I am sorry.
Yeah, C.
Ooh, hold on, hold that thought.
I'm just going to throw some wording out here for that I that's going to become part of A.
Yes,
In all zones, if an accessory dwelling unit, ADU, was only allowed by a special exception granted by vote of the zoning board of adjustment, blah, 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 the rest of it. So,
Yeah. something
Changing
like
both
that.
to if.
so I was changing both to if, and then adding after where ADU is in parens, was only allowed by, or maybe it was allowed by, maybe you take the word only out because that's a restrictive word, but
That's a good point, but you and Jess can massage that for next time.
I think, but you have to mention Lakes,
Was.
No, we don't. have to
Lakeshore
specify-
Residential,
We don't, there's no need to do that.
yeah, not here.
because that's the only place you can have that special exception.
That's at present, yes. But we
That
don't
would-
really need it.
That
Just-
would end up on the table of uses. Would show up there and then say what you gotta do. in
No,
each
but it
zone.
would be for clarity for a lot of citizens.
True. Okay, next page.
Next page.
Planning Department. That looks fine.
Yep. Indicated that the application is 250
Yeah,
permit plus six per abutter. As defined in New Hampshire RSA 672:3.
that, we good with those? Turn those red?
Now, just out of curiosity, are all of these items also required for a B and B or anywhere else?
Good point.
In other words, this is not something exceptional. This is what's required for any lodging.
Well,
Well,
that would go
actually-
through a site plan process.
Right, but I
So,
mean, you know,
yes,
I'm
you
looking
have the
for
notification.
information that's gonna explain
Yep.
to citizenry that we're not asking for anything more than is already asked for in any other location.
Right.
Mhm.
So
See,
that
this-
it puts it up front. that
This is less restrictive.
This is less
Yeah, much less
restrictive
restrictive.
than like if a bed and breakfast come in with the planning board for site plan. This is less restrictive than that.
I mean, you gotta jump through every hoop that's on the planning board checklist.
Yeah, fire separation, sprinkler system.
Yeah, there's a lot more that goes into it.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Okay, so the inspection criteria, number 5, that jumps up to number 5.
And that takes us down, that just talks about the initial inspection.
And that's
by fire
fine,
and
too.
code.
Yep, so that can turn red.
Okay.
Everybody agree?
Yep.
And,
Talking about V,
No, number 5 on the next page, on page 9, Tom.
That's what it's referencing to.
yeah,
Right, so what we're talking about is 2C.
On page 8.
correct.
There's a reference to say C number 5
Yes,
for
2C.
additional inspection criteria.
correct.
Yeah. Turn that to red.
Do you see what we're talking about, Tom?
5 I see, but I don't see.
No,
Oh, it's all in
go to
green.
go to page 8.
Yep.
We're looking at number 2,
C.
C. Charlie.
top of the page.
And it says.
In green.
C number 5 for additional
Okay.
inspection criteria.
Then you look to the other page and that tells you the
Yep.
list, okay? IV, down a little further, a functional 5-pound ABC fire extinguisher with annual certification.
Yep.
That's
Absolutely.
fine with me.
Is that necessary?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You think that's necessary, 5 pound?
Yes,
Yeah,
because
Yeah.
that's a,
because the other ones will just, it won't even knock it down, those little pounders.
Yeah, the little pounders, ABC, you don't think is adequate?
A fireman
Or-
might
or
be able to put
requiring
out
more than
something,
one?
No one else.
Would you,
The kitchen by the exit door is where you want it.
Mhm.
You want to be at the door ready to go, and if you feel you can get it, you grab the extinguisher and hit it. If not, you're out the door.
you're out the door?
out the door.
Okay, so you don't feel as though that having 2 1-pound ABCs would be adequate?
Time.
Okay,
No, yeah,
okay,
Yeah,
they're not that expensive,
Yeah.
no,
you know?
No.
I mean, I put them everywhere.
okay.
VII, provide proof of filing for meals and rooms.
Yes.
That's fine.
Mhm.
Turn that red.
Yep.
Rental term, house insurance. Yeah.
and I'd like to comment on that.
Go ahead.
So, I did do some research on insurance. And I actually talked with the building department secretary. Because she does either Airbnb or the other company. So I wanted to know, what do insurance companies look at when they go out? And, you know, they want to insure a short-term rental. And they pretty much just do an outside inspection. So they're not going in
Mhm.
to inspect to see if a lot of these other criteria that are on this list are actually in place.
Right.
So,
Well, part of this will be covered when you and the fire chief or whomever goes out.
That's right.
You know, they're gonna look for GFIs,
Mhm.
you know, near wet locations and things of this nature. That's all life safety
Right.
stuff. And I don't think we should compromise that.
Well, no, I think what she's saying,
That they're not,
saying that
They're not checking
Though
it.
they're providing insurance, that
They're not
doesn't
checking
mean anybody from the insurance company is looking at those
Right.
items.
Right.
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 They're
That's
looking.
I would
that's
think-
shocking.
I would think that the
Yeah.
insurance company would be interested to know that these things are in place
Right.
and actually have a break in their insurance rate if everything is done by.
Yeah,
but
yeah, I
it's-
called 3 different companies.
But
to
I don't want, we
Get a
don't
good
want
gist
to,
of what's going on.
and there may be insurance companies that will actually send
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
that,
It all
Right.
depends on the
yeah,
insurance. That's up to
my
them.
experience
I
is
have-
More
that
often than not, the insurance company or the agent is just simply going to be asking, do you have fire extinguishers? Do you have,
Right.
operating smoke detectors? Nobody's going to go check it.
Well, yes.
They
and no.
do. Some companies do
I
though.
rent out some
Firemen in Quebec do.
I rent out some single family homes and when I either change insurance companies or get my first insurance, the insurance company sends an inspector out, wants to see my panel,
Mhm.
wants to see all these things.
Want to see
So they
fireplace?
come in the house.
Fireplace. They want to see if there's wood
So-
stoves.
They do. Would you concur with that? Insurance person?
I think it varies from company.
yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I think, it's.
I'm lucky I get inspected.
Yeah, what do you got, State Farm?
Go ahead, please.
I mean, this is where I think that it's crossing the line. I know that would you require this for apartments, like the landlords and all the apartment buildings and all the long-term rentals?
We did, they were doing inspections. I don't know that, if someone comes to me and says, we're starting an apartment, if someone was to come new to put in a multifamily unit, all of this would be actually part of
What
it.
about the apartments that for long-term rentals? What are they?
I'll tell you what's in my lease. They are required to have tenant homeowners insurance.
Can,
And if-
can we just officially reopen public input?
Yeah,
I'm sorry,
we're-
just
We're
technical.
open public so you can chat with us.
Could you come up?
Come on up.
Well, no, and I understand her. I think I understand your
I
point.
understand your point too.
I do too,
Are
because
these
I've asked.
requirements stricter than they are for an apartment building?
Yes, at the moment, because we don't monitor and inspect every apartment building that is here.
How is that not a business that they're collecting money for long-term rentals, but this is taken so seriously? This is where the slippery slope of
I understand.
litigation comes in.
Yes.
You
And
know,
this is, the town of Alton is not responsible for the safety of the guests in my house. I'm responsible for it.
That's true. But once you do it for profit, it tips it over. Because.
But that's her point.
My point is that you're not
The-
requiring it for long-term
For,
rentals.
for long-term rentals, it's not required. That's her point.
No, there's a time factor.
Well,
We
She's
can't
asking-
go back in time,
let's put it this way. It's
but
not
anything
the-
new that comes through can be required to have those.
She's making a very valid point here.
She
She's
is
That-
making
that-
a valid point, and,
Wait.
and
I just want to say something. When I was fire chief, every business and rental unit was inspected annually for compliance. So that's not being done now. I'm not going to discuss that, but we did it. Everybody had an occupancy permit that came as part of it. It's a state funded occupancy permit.
Mhm.
And I think it's very good to have that done because they're the ones that go in, they'll see the smoke detectors are in place. They'll check the fire extinguishers. They're going to check for life safety. And even if you're a long-term rental, that you are subject to that inspection.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah, I don't think
But when
that's,
you don't,
but it's
when you
not being.
put this in place and you can't administer it 100%, you're opening up exposure to the town. Because you're saying you're checking, and if you can't, like, does the fire department have capacity to do 300 inspections in the middle of summer?
Yes. They've done it. We've done it. Yeah, we used to inspect every campfire
Yeah.
permit, 2 foot to 4 foot. Every one of them was inspected annually. So yes, they have the staff.
I mean, you're putting yourself in a position that is very, from a litigation standpoint, and again, it's what I do for a living, so
I
I'm just
understand
saying.
exactly what you're saying. You're also saying what is existing. What is existing now with the long-term rentals. and
Why
how
would they
that's
be
gonna-
treated differently?
That's what I'm saying. And why is it being treated? And what can be, should something be grandfathered or not, is what you're saying, is something that's already an established business.
Things like
That's,
life
that's,
safety are non-grandfatherable.
yeah, and I think
oh, that,
I may be
that's-
missing where I thought this was going, but I mean, I think life safety, I think, yes, we should require inspections. Businesses that are in operation should be inspected right now annually. That's just should be, and maybe that's a whole nother deal that needs to be taken up some other way, but that's not our,
That's not our job.
but But I thought what you were getting to the point of is, are we requiring them to have insurance where we're not requiring a long-term apartment complex to have insurance? No, I don't believe we require a long-term apartment complex to have insurance. And on that point, I agree. I don't think we should require it here.
Yep, I can agree
So-
with that.
Well, it's not just that. You don't require them to have a 5-pound thing, all of these things
Well,
like.
that was my point of why I asked.
A business.
That's
I know
part of
you
life
think of this
safety,
as
though,
a
I get it.
business,
Yeah,
But.
that-
but a-
Don't
a
require it in our
long-term rental-
residential homes either.
When we
but-
rent these houses, like
I
a
know.
lot of them are
It's a castle.
a lot of them are for 1 or 2 weeks. Now we're charging $250 for this. We're gonna come in and require them to do this. What if their railings aren't up to, this is a lake house property. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I don't know. I mean, I am 1,000% concerned with everyone's safety. But I don't know. I think it's a slippery slope that the towns.
I see your point.
Yeah.
I do
And-
too.
And I am not a government overreach person whatsoever, so I get it. But if we don't do some of this, then we could be negligent putting it forward that we're not putting the stuff. So we've got to remember, I mean, we're still all subject to legal
If
action.
someone were to get hurt in my house, they are not gonna sue the town of Alton right now.
No.
You can
but-
promise that.
Well, I
You
can't promise
can't.
that, but I don't know how
You
they
should
would.
promise that.
But if you say, I inspected this property and it had this, and they took the thing down, you know what I mean? Like, if you
Then if
are
they took it
holding
down-
up a standard. then you're
I
just-
can't tell you how
I
many
understand.
times in my
Exactly.
apartments I go in there, I says, what happened to the smoke detectors?
Smoke detectors are all taken down. Oh, yeah.
It was ringing.
Right. No, that's gonna
You know, it
happen.
happens. I mean,
Does.
that's, you can't be there for everything. And I would be very happy to eliminate the insurance requirement.
Yeah, I think
That's-
that we
Yep.
should actually
going-
strike that.
Yep, I think it is going a little bit far.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Stay put.
The third party inspection?
Yeah, who's gonna be the third party?
Yeah.
Trying to think of the,
Good
Oh,
question.
yeah, it was
So-
interesting. About 5 years ago in Quebec, the fire department came around and they came to every single house, every residential house. They wanted to get screens put on every chimney and they wanted to see that you had a CO and everything else. And, and that's after centuries of never giving a damn about anything,
And I think that if there's gonna be inspections performed of these properties, then why are we asking, that would be a checklist. If I'm gonna be doing an inspection of a property, I want a checklist. So I'd be the one doing that.
That will be the number one thing that people are they're not gonna want you coming into their properties and doing inspections. That's gonna be I'm just telling you,
Right,
from a
no,
voting
I understand.
perspective,
But
that will be your barrier.
if they're gonna do business, if you open up a store.
Yep.
We're going to
he's
be
gonna
in
go in.
there doing the inspections for safety
You
inspections.
have a motel, they're gonna be in for a smoke.
Right.
A restaurant.
And how about an apartment?
So,
Because that's
Well,
the comparable thing
The
here.
Well,
compar-
apartments-
the apartment,
apartments are
when it
required to
receives
have
its
inspections.
Certificate of occupancy has been inspected and he leaves it in that condition.
Mhm.
So it should stay in that condition. He can't be responsible for when people take the smoke detectors down. He can't control
They
that.
don't
Right,
get
right.
their occupancy permit until the inspections
I
are
don't-
done.
So it's done.
I don't think,
Fire alarm systems in apartment buildings need to be tested annually, certified
Yeah,
annually.
if you have a monitored system,
Right.
Well,
Well, even
don't.
even an unmonitored system in the common areas is, because that has to be,
We don't have many common area
yeah,
rental units around here.
yeah, I suppose we don't,
Maybe a
sorry.
vestibule, you come in and you go this way or that way, but that's about it.
I think this next one about the asking for a third party inspection, I don't think it's reasonable.
Right.
Yeah, I think,
So-
That if we're gonna be doing the inspection, then we're gonna use the checklist to do the inspection, myself and or
Should
my
we,
position in
yeah, we just
fire
covered,
inspector will be using that checklist.
Where is this?
We're down at the bottom page, number 9, Roman numeral 9.
So can I tell you
Bottom of
why that
page
was
8.
added?
Yes.
Numeral
So
9?
this was added after I had done so I was talking about the research I was doing with the insurances. And then that's when Melinda said, oh, hey, I have all this list of criteria that, is sent to me when I rent out mine. So that was a discussion that took place after, because it was a pretty lengthy checklist of items that whatever company she used, she goes through a company. So whatever company that she used had this checklist of all this criteria, and it included like this other criteria stuff on here. So that's why that was added in.
Or insurance company, you mean?
Not the insurance company. She goes through
Oh, the
third
VRBO or
company.
whomever it
Whichever
is.
the company
Yeah,
is.
a rental company.
Well,
And the
if you
rental
have-
company goes out and they do this pretty extensive
Yeah.
Yeah.
inspection. So, I mean, I'm more than
This would
happy
be
to
a
just
price tag with
take that off.
That's probably,
So we're gonna axe that?
Well, I would just propose, I don't want to overspeak here, but if you require insurance and they're doing that detailed checklist, aren't you just
we're
saving
not
your?
requiring insurance. We just struck
I'm
it.
just saying, but if you did, instead of doing 300 inspections, if you require them to have a rental insurance, then they're doing it for you. You don't use the town's resources. You don't, I mean, it is extensive. I have renter's insurance. I will tell you, it's extensive, and they haven't come to my property, but I sign off on I mean, it's a big checklist.
Right, but not every insurance company goes and does inside inspections.
Well,
They
what
don't.
she's saying is they don't come inside your house to do it. They give you the checklist to self-certify, correct? Is
Correct.
that what I understand?
Yep, and we have
But we-
to, I do think I had to notarize it.
But if there's a problem.
Yeah.
And those things are not on site, the insurance
Well,
might not be
if someone
valid.
falsifies the records and there's an issue, then they are subject to the legal wrath of whatever happens.
Right.
So
Mhm.
to falsify these things is probably not a good idea.
Right.
But,
All right, so we're gonna cross off having to obtain rental insurance.
correct.
And then we're gonna cross off the next
Remove
one.
that one.
Yep.
Then you
And-
had an issue
And
with a
if
third
we want to
party.
leave a checklist in there, I would say probably developed by the planning department, the building department. I mean, he's more
Building and
usually.
fire.
What's that?
If we're the ones doing the inspection, I think the
Yeah, you
building and
should
fire
come
should.
up- yeah, you
the
guys
basic-
should do it.
There would be
basic-
sort of an
and it would be
in-house
ba-
checklist.
Yeah.
Yes,
Maybe
And-
basic stuff. but
there would have to
yeah,
be.
Yeah.
And that way, it could be part of the packet when someone picks up their application.
This is what you're
These,
gonna have.
these are what you're gonna have to, be up on.
Right.
Okay.
And it doesn't need to be, page after page after page. It's just basic life safety stuff. That's really what we're looking for.
So we're gonna cross this off and just part of the application packet, you'll have a checklist.
Yeah,
A
So it
checklist.
doesn't need to be specified.
I don't think the
In the
checklist,
ordinance.
that's just for people's
Right.
convenience.
So we're crossing that off.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would think the one thing my neighbors would want to know is that I had good insurance.
You think they would or would not?
I think they would want
They
to know I
would.
had good insurance.
She said they would.
All right, so the next one is item number 3, designating
Property.
Property
property
boundaries.
boundaries.
That would have to be done via an LLS.
No, it says they shall be responsible for
Designated,
designating.
Yeah,
Okay.
property
No,
boundaries.
I think designating is the wrong word.
identifying.
Identify, yeah.
Yeah, so that,
Yeah, yeah.
so that people know that, okay, here it is.
This is where you.
This
can-
is our land. This is where we're renting and this is where we're not renting.
That boathouse is not access for you.
Right.
So it wouldn't
This
necessarily
is, this
mean,
is the property lines.
Yeah.
This is
Right.
it.
so we're not telling people to go out if they don't have a survey.
Right.
Just tell us
They're
where they are.
just, they're gonna have to get educated on where their property
That probably
markers
should
are.
move to the
Tell-
inspection part of it.
Where's the driveway? Is there an adequate space in the driveway for a minimum of 2 vehicles?
We're not,
And-
what we're talking about is that,
But no, that's all part of it. That would still be part of it as far as the boundaries.
well,
You're not gonna be parking on the next door neighbor.
you're moved on to the next one. We're still, I don't think we've gotten past B.
Mhm.
Yeah, and-
So
and
I
I-
we're
think
still
it
on
should
B.
be Identifying should be changed from designating to identifying.
And so
Identified,
then
yeah.
the second question is, should that be moved up to the inspection criteria, or is that just something that they're
That's when,
responsible
that
for?
Well, it
would
could
when
be-
you'd review it.
That could be one during the course of the review process.
Yeah.
That would be one of the,
It can be here, but put it on the checklist. Because the checklist is a non-voter document.
Mhm.
I would think, right?
Mhm.
Because,
Right.
yeah, I'm sure it is. Yeah.
Identify property boundaries.
So we might want to take a look at what we're making the short-term rental, the owner of the short-term rental responsible for. Should that come before we list out, because this list of inspection says shall be limited to the following. So you're limiting what you're inspecting to just those, well, now 8 items since we struck 2 of them. It's not looking at. Now, it does reference the parking, makes no reference to boundaries. The other thing is that we should add somewhere in here, I think, is the Knox box that Deputy Chief asked for.
Yep.
Yeah.
I think that should say, shall include the following and not be limited to.
I agree.
Yeah, I think
Two.
Shall
really kind of cut your
include.
toes off there.
And going down to D on that, posting occupancy limits on the premises. If the fire department did their inspection, like they would do Ackley's Restaurant and all these things, they post the occupancy. They'll have access to the occupancy per bedroom, and therefore he will generate a form that is posted on the property. Occupancy with this building is X. There it is. It's a state form. It's covered. I guess that's, you guys got to get the fire department involved in this if you
Oh, yeah.
want to do this, so.
Yeah.
Right.
Is that based on NFPA and things like that?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Okay, next page, 9. E as amended, that,
Yep, that's good.
it's been amended, hasn't it, the noise ordinance?
Yeah.
It has been, yeah,
Yeah.
But
Okay,
this
So that
this
way-
is also for any future amendments, it
Right.
covers it.
correct.
Yep, so that's, would be appropriate. Posting a fire permit if applicable to the town of Alton Fire Department no longer larger than 2 foot
But
2 foot, not inch.
rings.
Whoops.
2
Yeah, that'd be
foot.
a tiny fire.
That would be a very tiny
That's like in
fire.
an ashtray.
That's a candle.
I got a lighter
Had to be in a
first,
2-inch binder.
Sit there with the zipper.
I noticed that earlier too.
Yeah, and
Okay.
the fire permit must be obtained from the property owner.
Yes,
And
by
it's
the property
technically a
owner.
by the
owner.
property owner.
Or they can give a letter stating the person as a designee, but if you have people coming in and out all the time, it should be the owner.
It should be the owner.
And technically, it's listed as a burn permit.
Correct. Yep,
So I'm gonna change fire to burn.
yep, burn permit, yep.
Do you want to do burn and then in parens after it, fire, just so it's clear? 'Cause a burn permit in my mind is,
It's
I'm
burning
gonna
leaves.
pile up a bunch of brush and
Yeah, but if
Strike a
it's
match.
called a burn permit, but,
Technical
well,
term.
it's probably a class 1 burn permit,
Right,
which
we'll
means
just
a
leave-
2 foot firing.
Right.
Have Evan clear
Yeah.
what class it is. But,
Who's gonna know classes though?
but I, yeah, but
maybe
I
just
would
burn
also,
permit's
I
fine.
Burn
think we
permit
should
is
call
fine.
it a campfire permit.
That would be much better.
Because
That-
it's.
That's what you're doing.
Specific, it's
what
specific
it's
campfire.
Named is what you said it is what it is,
Yeah,
which is good.
Campfire.
Campfire permit.
You don't like the campfire permit?
Oh, I'm good.
Okay, because that's been a state law forever.
There's a lot of people selling campfire wood.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so that, the 2 foot ring, posting the property limit
Contact
uncoded
information.
respond, as well as within the Knox box.
Yep, I have that down as J,
yeah.
Knox box.
Oh, well,
Okay.
but posting the
Sorry, what?
property manager's contact information, who could
Is that
respond?
included in the,
If the fire department wants somebody to get there, that should be in that box.
The
Okay,
information.
so add
That's
that
the only way
to-
they're gonna find it, because the house could be covered in soot and the one inside, they don't know where to look for the guy's name inside. In the
Okay.
Knox
It
box
should be in the Knox
is
box.
where it's gonna be.
so posting the property manager's contact information
It-
in in a Knox box?
In the Knox box, as well as posted for the
Yes.
tenant to see.
Right,
Yes, yeah, yeah, it's not in lieu of, it's
Right.
both.
Both.
Right.
or manager, owner or manager.
And in a location,
Stick it on the refrigerator. I don't know.
There should be in the main entrance, house rules.
Yeah.
It should be the house rules, all the emergency phone numbers, the property owner's phone number.
That's a good point.
And all that should be right there, readily available the minute they walk in the door. This is all at their fingertips.
The house rules or the town rules should be really there. So
All
the tenants
right.
can see it.
Yeah, the ordinance,
Incorporated in the booking.
yes,
Okay, I've never done an Airbnb, so it's all Greek. to me.
Yeah.
I have.
Unless you book through
And-
Craigslist,
and
Facebook.
yes.
you-
And all that information is at their fingertips. Everything, the emergency exits, they know where everything is, where all the egress windows are, the doors,
Wow.
they know where all the contact information of all emergencies, including the hospital.
Good.
Hospital, fire, police, manager, owner. All that information is readily available.
That's nice. That's good.
Yep.
Well, Airbnbs sounds like they have their act together. I mean, I've
Yeah,
never
they
been
do.
exposed.
I'll say they do.
Okay,
Most of it, a variety of places.
number 4. Applications not complete. We've discussed that already. So upon submitting a completed application, certificate of notice application will be mailed to the abutters.
Well, I think we said earlier that 30 days within after the receipt of a complete application.
30 days of
Complete.
receipt, it says. Short-term rental application shall be reviewed and approved or denied within 30 days of receipt of a complete application.
A complete and stamped?
No, just
No, just
Just
completed
complete
application.
application.
Is what, when they, I don't know your rules do, but the fire station, every time we got a correspondence, it was dated.
yeah, we stamp
Yeah,
stuff.
so-
in.
Everything's dated.
There's the date. So then they have 30 days from the stamp date.
Yeah.
So,
So
Submitting.
that green batch looks okay?
so I got a question though, because we're gonna make a decision within 30 days of the receipt of the,
I see where you're going with this.
yeah. And then it says a decision will be made the next business day after the 15-day period is ended.
That's conflicting.
Well, it depends on when you send out the notice.
Let's put it
Gotta
this
send
way.
them out
Why don't we
exactly
just leave it
14
as 30 days? If you can get it done in 15 days,
days.
you're a hero. You know? That way, I mean, John technically has 30 days to deliver a building permit to someone, right? Something like 30 days, I think you have.
Yeah, there's a, that
So
I have,
that's not uncommon.
I have 30 days to approve
Either
or
approve or
reject.
deny.
Yeah, approve or deny.
Yeah.
But, you know, I'm done way before that.
Yeah, way before.
I'm like, you know, if I
Usually
go-
it'd be 2.
If I go over 30 days of the building permit, it's because I need more information or something of that nature. It's not a, you know,
Generally, you
I don't generally don't.
within 5 days.
You get them out quick.
I do my
Usually
best.
within
Yeah,
3 to
you do.
5 days.
You So I think if you leave 30 days in there, which is customary and usual,
Mhm.
if you get it done in 15 days after
That's fine.
the next day after the thing comes back,
Yeah.
knock it out, you're done with it. You know?
So what do you want to change in here?
So I want to
I would
strike
just
the
strike
sentence,
that, yes.
and administrative decision will be made the next business day after the 15-day period is ended.
Strike.
Because I think that contradicts in some degree the fact that you have 30 days from the receipt of a completed application.
And I can see
So-
where you could run into, if
So
there's
how would it read?
questions. We may not have all the answers within that end of that 15-day period, but now you've locked yourself in that you have to make a decision.
Right.
Okay, so the reason why that was put in there is because abutters are gonna have to have a date as to when they realize when that 30-day appeal period comes into play. How are they gonna know at what time or day that I mailed out
Well, they have,
the
butters
current-
have
'cause we're
15
not
days.
Following up
Probably gonna
afterwards.
send that notice of this. Do you send notices of decision certified normally?
No, I send a notice of decision to the applicant and to the agent. That's it. Abutters don't get notices of decision. They attend meetings. So this isn't gonna be at a meeting. So there's no set date as to when I did. So that's why
would
that
then-
language was added.
Then instead of saying the next business day, would say that a decision regarding the approve, deny, whatever, will be made after the 15-day notice period. So you're not locking yourself into making it the day after the end of 15
Yeah,
days.
that's just restrictive to you. I mean, what if you have a cold that day and
What it's saying is, you tell the
Twist your
abutters,
ankles.
you tell the abutters that at the end of 15 days, we're going to make a decision. But we're not going to necessarily be able to make it on the 16th day. This is which is what you've locked yourself into here.
do you have a place to post any of this stuff to the website?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
these approvals?
So,
There you go.
Yeah. The
So there
approval-
Okay,
could
public
be-
notice.
so some,
And on the
some
building.
abutters, they might get a 28-day notice. There could be a 27-day notice.
You
There
mean-
could be, is that fair?
Wait a minute.
I mean, an appeal period. Sorry.
Well, this, I think the state law is 30.
No, it's the depending on, no, it varies.
Does it? Okay.
Zoning boards can set their own appeal periods. We go with 30 because planning board is by law, planning board says 30, but by law, the zoning board can make up their own.
Okay. You guys are special.
For the sake of continuity, we do 30 for everybody.
Right.
And it's just become kind of a habit.
Yep.
But when you start drilling down. So
Right. And I don't want to have to wait 30 days.
You don't have to.
Send it, you know,
You don't
but
have to.
they have
It's-
to know there needs to be a date because there's
Well,
no
If
meeting.
you post it on the website, you say, okay, this came in on October 5th. This application was approved. And there it is. It's a public notice at that point. Am I right or wrong? If you
So-
post it to the website,
right.
You have
It is
written here that
legally.
the abutters have 15 days from the date of the mailing of the notice to respond to the planning department.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right? So if it takes them 28 days to respond, they've missed their deadline.
Correct.
So what's the question here?
So,
So you could make a decision after 16 days with no recourse because the first sentence says that you will make a decision within 30 days of the receipt. of-
okay, so what you're saying is I'm giving abutters 2 opportunities to appeal
No.
the decision in a way, right?
No,
You just gave them only
The
15
original one
days.
is you're locking yourself into a date certain.
they have the 15 days to give you their opinions.
Right.
After that time, a decision will be rendered
Right.
and posted on the town.
On the website.
And in 30 days from that time is the appeal process. You
But
know,
it's that means it's on the abutters to pay attention and find out when.
and you can do that as, put that in there as part of the abutters notification.
Hmm.
Say the date that this is posted, you have 30 days from that time. If you do not agree with the decision, you can appeal it.
I'll appeal.
Who are they appealing it to?
ZBA.
Board of Selectmen?
And what are they appealing?
The
Well,
decision whether to
whether-
grant that use or not.
Denied or granted.
Well, if it's in the zoning ordinance, it goes to the ZBA.
Okay.
Mhm.
There you go.
Appeal,
So,
appeal
yeah,
of
perfect.
anything
Yeah,
in
you're
the
right.
appeal of anything that's
Yep.
based in the zoning ordinance
Yep.
goes to the ZBA.
So then you can put the process, will be appealed to the ZBA.
Because it wouldn't go back to the planning board because the planning board doesn't do
At that
appeals.
point, it would go to the
Right.
zoning.
So that
But
would
it
be something that I would definitely check with Jim on is,
Oh,
is that
absolutely.
notification
It would
just
really,
on the website good enough?
It
Because that's
really-
not how we notify
No, but
things. That we do it on the website. It's at the post office. It's
the
posted
important, the
at
important
town
thing
hall,
is,
you know,
I feel that the primary thing, the most important thing is that their butters are notified
yes.
to start. You know, we have that provision in there that the abutters will be
Yes.
notified. You
Absolutely.
know, Laconia's idea of making a decision, then telling people is
yeah.
That's wrong.
goes
Yeah, that-
against
that-
No wonder
everything
why
that
they're
I
in
know.
court.
That's
Yeah.
wrong.
That's
It
cool.
goes against everything I know and everything I've been taught.
Yeah.
But in the course of that abutter notice, we could say at the end of the 15-day period for you, you know,
Mhm.
we mail them on the 15th, on the 30th. After the 30th, a decision will be rendered and posted here. So you can go see it, or you can call. No.
To
But we
get
can't
the
get,
decision.
So what if they call and say, I don't want this?
Calling doesn't work. They.
well, I
must
mean,
respond,
if
right.
they notify us and say they don't want it, then we have to look at the reason why, you know, we're gonna have to look at the reason why.
Well,
If
but-
that-
You're making it legal and then you're letting the abutters make the decision as to what, I don't understand.
No, the
No,
butters
we're
are
not
Letting
simply
them
giving
make
giving
a
them
input.
decision. We're allowing them input
Allowing
to
the
weigh
input,
in
so-
on our decision.
We still
making.
make the decision, and if they don't like the decision, then they can appeal that.
Go
And
back to
that's
my
where,
coffee
that's
shop.
where a condition can come in. That's where a condition come in, because if there's enough abutters that come and say, hey, look, this was approved and we have a problem because of this or because of that. And even though they met the criteria, there's something that we can discuss with the homeowner of the property to change.
The important thing is that the abutters, we would give the abutters the opportunity to contact us and let us know, hey, I have this issue. You know, they didn't tell you they have this, or I know this, or
They're
we
doing
share a
this.
septic system, or we share a well. And we object to the fact that we share a well with them and now the water usage is gonna go up. Or,
Whatever the case may be.
whatever the situation may be.
And then if
So
it
are
goes to the
homeowners
zoning
allowed-
board,
are The homeowners allowed to participate? Is this a formal process or this?
Their application is their application to do the thing. I mean, if they have questions of the planning department, her phone is there.
And if,
The short answer is yes. So if there is an appeal, absolutely, you would be involved in that ZBA hearing
yes.
to, argue your case against your neighbors.
But nobody else would be participating in the planning department's decision. Nobody's sitting there when Jessica and John are talking over this stuff.
Correct.
No, we don't.
No, I mean, I'm trying to make it clear.
Yeah, for the initial.
Yeah.
The initial review.
I mean, we should trust their judgment. I mean,
Absolutely,
know.
absolutely. No, but what I'm saying is the abutters don't come in and sit down. They may
They
talk. to
could,
them.
if they wanted to, if they say, hey, I'd like to come talk to you about it. I don't.
They
think
have,
Jessica's a
they
slam
should
in the
have,
face.
they should have the ability to review what's been presented.
Absolutely, but I mean, they're
application.
not gonna sit there while you discuss the merits of the case.
They can make, but we want their input.
They can
Well,
bring their input
After
into
the
what,
15 days, they receive the information from the abutters and none of it's good. She can say to the homeowner,
hey,
property owner,
We have a
these are,
problem.
We
these
didn't
are
know
the
about
issues we're
this."
dealing with. Can you shed some light on this? Let's give people the.
Oh, yeah.
the opportunity to have their voice.
I don't want us, my problem with that particular statement is you don't want locked into, you have
That
to
next
render
day.
that
Right.
decision
The
that
day
day.
after
Right.
the 15
Right,
days.
right.
We don't want to drag it out, but again, this is
We're getting well
Oh, was I?
close to my bedtime, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's-
What, do you turn into a pumpkin?
Oh, my God.
I do.
Been a long day.
9:25.
Not 30, 25. Okay. Date of the administrative decision, that's fine, right?
Yeah.
Number 5, during the approval process, initial inspection by the fire department, building code officer shall take place. Second inspection by the, take place at the beginning of the second year of the 2-year permit. Yeah,
Yes.
yep. Because these town,
Shall
these
take
fire
place.
permits are annual permits.
Yes.
And this
So
next,
let me clarify that, it's just the fire department is gonna do the yearly inspection.
no, he'll do it too,
Okay.
right?
All right.
Well, this
had-
says,
I
this
thought it
says
was
a
just the
second
fire
inspection by fire department only.
Code official
So
needs to
really,
go
it's
out
the
every
life
single
safety
year?
at that
It's a
point.
life safety
Fire
only,
department.
and then the building inspector every 2 years. Is that, do you agree with that, John?
No,
You think you should go every year or every 2 years?
I think life safety every 2 years, but I mean,
Life safety is every,
I suppose, did they add bedrooms in the interim? Did they suddenly convert that, closet in the basement into a bunk room? I guess those
That would
possibilities
be caught by
exist.
the assessor.
second year.
What's that?
I suppose that would be caught by the assessor.
Well, certainly
Well,
would be caught by
no.
life
You
safety.
can't count,
Yeah.
you can't, because this person can say, no, I won't let the assessor
That's
in,
true,
and
too.
there's no recourse.
That's right.
That's right.
That's right, and that happens.
The tax laws
More
are-
times than not.
Yeah, that happens all the time.
Mhm.
The folly of that is they might assess you for granite countertops when you only have plywood, but that's your peril,
Right.
But no, we don't want to,
Shall
and
take
using,
place.
we run into legal potential legal issues using assessor, counting on the assessor to provide us with information.
Got it.
See, the way,
We don't want to cross.
the way I read this is the code enforcement officer is every 2 years.
That's the way it's written.
And then the fire
Fire
department
departments
is every year.
every year.
Okay, that's,
I don't see a reason to change that.
Okay, move it forward.
same. Move
Okay,
that to
all right,
right.
yeah, I'm sorry, I
Okay.
was misreading it.
But that's the way I understood it, so. What is this? 1 year from the date of revolt. 6.
I have no trouble with that. I mean, if you shoot a deer without a permit,
Mhm.
you know, you're gonna lose your license for a year.
And your weapon and your car.
Okay,
Okay.
Tom.
We can't take all that.
Okay, so that's good.
And then the last,
Last one.
third party again. The third party would prohibit.
Yeah,
Applicant.
should we just strike that out of there?
I don't think it's
What do you think,
necessary.
Jess?
What are we talking?
What was that?
Next
I'm
page,
sorry.
The,
page
the
10.
third party.
So that's the third penalty.
That's not third party, that's the third penalty.
Third penalty, sorry.
Prohibit the applicant from applying.
So
Good
as
time.
if it's,
Yeah,
Third penalty, not the third party.
Like now, I said party.
You got me going on. it.
Yeah, I said party.
Yeah,
Like I
okay,
said,
that-
everything's starting to get blurry.
That should be fine. Well, we're almost done, people.
so we're keeping that in there? Because that talks
Yeah,
about.
yeah, that's good.
We need something.
Since we. were
Okay,
given
now I can get to
bird.
the part that I found there's an error in. So
Okay.
under table of uses.
Yep.
Oh, actually, we're just gonna, well, no, we're gonna leave that in because we're gonna just put, yes.
Yep,
And then the note section, it should state C section, that does say 365, sorry, it's under special exceptions. Go down further.
Yep.
And now we're not requiring special exceptions, so it doesn't make a difference because that's gonna get taken out. I had section 364 and it should have been
Okay, yeah.
365,
Oh, okay.
but we're taking off special exceptions, so
yeah,
that's.
so that's.
So that whole lower thing
It's a
we
moot
cross out.
point.
That takes that right out.
Yeah, so special exceptions, but leave the rationale section. Okay.
Well, I think I'd like to thank you and John for some sterling work.
But she's been doing the
It's been a lot of work.
huge amount of this. All right.
Do the Article 200 definition following uses, FDO, flood development.
yeah,
overlay.
because those are purely administrative.
Administrative and
Oh, yeah, the rest of them.
Yeah,
Rest of them are just administrative.
all
Those I've
administrative.
confirmed with town council that they are in fact administrative.
Okay.
That floodplain drives me crazy, because they took a lot of property out of this last time they did it, and people that had built houses and now they have to have flood insurance.
Well, the thing is, what happened at the time, I know Jim Washburn was the selectman and also on the Conservation Commission. So this had to be in the end of the 90s. And the maps arrived at Town Hall. Conservation Commission went over them. We sent copies to the road crew to have them analyze where they knew about different types of flooding and look at things. And we gave copies to every other group that we could possibly imagine.
Well, I guess my point I'm trying to do is the one I'm familiar with is they're required to have flood insurance. And he had to go and hire a surveyor and establish elevation, and he's above it, And so I just don't like the grab.
Well, it's not so much the grab as it's an attempt to protect.
Well, I'd like to speak to that. Biggest single problem we have right now is that the floodplain maps for Belknap County are from 1988. Belknap County is the last county in the state that is going to get updated flood maps. FEMA's in the process of doing this.
And have
That's why
been.
they're having to do LOMA. The letter of map adjustment is what you're talking about. We have to get a surveyor to say you're out actually technically
Elevation,
have the
that's such and
floodplain.
such.
Because it's almost impossible to determine from the existing maps where floodplain is. That's in work.
Okay.
The states were doing it, they ran out of money, so now FEMA's in charge.
Oh, boy, they'll really be fouled up.
Okay. Yes. So there is a meeting. I've got a letter the other day
Designate a grandchild to do the research.
where they're gonna be doing it up to modern standards using modern technology, but it's still gonna be a while. But it is in the works to be fixed as best as the government can fix it.
Do you want to officially, close public input?
Oh, yeah. We
Just
can
so we
close it.
follow up on that.
Before I do that, Ms. Moak, you
set.
good? I'll close public input
Okay.
for the second time. Okay, anything else to come before us?
So just as a side note, you had asked, so this has nothing to do with amendments. So you had asked if I could ask Courtney what would stem the need for municipal water? And she said
Okay.
she said there are no requirements for municipal water like Hannaford's,
Oh,
you know,
you mean
They
when,
could-
when it becomes classified as municipal water?
right,
Come out like a community system.
Community system.
right.
Community
Yeah, that
system.
rises above.
Yeah, yeah.
She said there wasn't anything,
Let's use.
There is.
Alton
said it would be the
Shores,
fire
they
chief.
have a private water system up there. What do they fall under? They still have to have the testing and things like that Courtney does, I'm sure, because they're a utility in essence.
right. So she said it would go fall from the fire chief would oversee that.
Really?
Something doesn't sound right here. No,
Yeah.
so so
That
I know
the
even in
state-
the little
that's
association that
governed
I'm
by the
involved
state.
in, we
Right.
have to do our
Yeah.
water
Water
testing
distribution
twice a
license
year.
once a year.
Right, like Dollar General doesn't have municipal water.
No, but
They don't have to.
I don't think it's municipal
Give
wasn't
it a
the word.
Maybe I misunderstood what you were asking me.
I'm really confused at what you're feeding me here. So I just,
I think if I recall, you were asking, on a community, when more than one person is on a well, what is that trigger point that it becomes
A community.
Community well.
community well? And
Public
I
wells.
want to say it's 6, but I don't quote me on
that's
that.
what thank you, Drew.
Was that-
That's,
Okay,
So,
yeah, because at one
I
point,
totally
knew-
misunderstood that whole thing.
I knew as soon as you go to 2,
Okay.
your well radius is much larger.
Correct.
Goes from 75 to 250, I think.
250.
It's bigger. I might be wrong on the
I didn't know
250,
that.
but it's bigger.
There's the individual, there's the community.
And shared.
They call it public water system or something.
And then when you get into the public town supply, that's a whole different
Yeah.
category.
Right.
But the 250 is the community, and the community applies to, like, for example, at Campfire Point, Old Kehonka, and all those places have a community septic, community water supply.
Okay.
That's it.
Anything else for the good of the evening?
I'm good.
And I suggest we move.
So moved. Seconded. We're
seconded.
adjourned
Adjourn.
at
Thank you very much.
Sue,
50.
interestingly enough, you obviously made your own index. I also made one for the department,
Same time as my clock.
index of the comments.
49.
Yeah.
And